Chapter 274. Jingqiu and Mo Yangyu chatted for a long time. The sky gradually darkened, but Mo Yangyu was still very happy as she grabbed Jingqiu, her daughter-in-law. She was really too happy today. In the end, Jingqiu took the initiative to find an excuse to leave and go find Dongbo Shuiying. According to her calculations, it had already been 8 hours since they left the Infernal Palace. Senior Snow Eagle probably won't be able to hold on much longer. Jingqiu sensed something and discovered Dongbo Shuiying's aura in the training grounds of Snowrock Castle. This made her very surprised. Is Senior Snow Eagle still practicing his spear? She hurried over. Shwa. In a flash, he was already at the entrance of the training field. At this moment, Dongbo Shuiying's movements were not considered fast, but the power of his spear was vast and mighty. Rumble, the power of his spear was controlled to a radius of 10 meters, but within that radius, cracks could be seen. Occasionally, the spear would turn into thousands of afterimages, and the spear would even cause gravity to distort the space. In short, the radius of 10 meters was a zone of destruction. It has already been 8 hours, and Senior Snow Eagle is still able to persist in practicing his spear? Isn't he in pain? Jingqiu did not dare to believe it. Yesterday he was only barely able to control the pain. Jingqiu watched from the side, not disturbing him. 1 hour, 2 hours. The sky gradually darkened. Brother, brother. Qing Shi's shout could be heard throughout half of Snowrock Castle. Very quickly, Qing Shi arrived at the training grounds. After so many years he had matured a lot. However, because he had become a legend mage, he still looked young, and his eyes were even more mesmerizing. Dongbo Shuiying had once lamented that his brother could rely on his looks to make a living. Brother, tomorrow is the wedding day, yet you are still practicing your spear arts. Why don't you spend more time with Sister Jingqiu? I should call her sister-in-law now. Qing Shi smiled as he walked in. Don't disturb your brother for now, Jingqiu said. Qing Shi hurriedly replied. Jingqiu continued to watch. She was very surprised, extremely surprised. Yesterday he only lasted for 8 hours before he had to return to his room. Today he was actually still practicing his spear arts? The pain was so intense that it was hard for him to think clearly. But at this moment he didn't need to think. He was purely following the instinct in his heart to display his spear art. Faster, faster, faster. Too slow. Faster is better. Dongbo Shuiying's spear split into thousands of spears and stabbed forward crazily. Every strike was infused with extreme piercing. However, at this moment, extreme piercing had already started to absorb some of the profound mysteries of earth, fire, water, and wind. There was only one goal: to increase the speed of this move. Boom, boom, boom. The power is too weak, too weak. It has to be stronger and fiercer. Dongbo Shuiying's spear technique changed. Both of his hands stabbed out furiously as he exerted his full strength. At the same time, his spear technique utilized the true meaning of star as well as the true meaning of extreme piercing. The spear swept out, seemingly splitting the world into two. The spear danced in the air like a dragon. As he was completely immersed in his spear art, even the pain he was feeling seemed to have lessened significantly. However, as time passed, the pain grew stronger and stronger, and eventually Dongbo Shuiying was forced to stop. Huff, huff, huff. Dongbo Shuiying's forehead was filled with sweat. When he saw Qing Shi at the door and his little brother, Dongbo Shuiying could not help but smile. Qing Shi is back. Brother. Qing Shi immediately ran over. Brother, you seem to be in a good mood. Tomorrow is your wedding and now you are practicing your spear art. Just now someone came to call for dinner. Let's eat together. Not tonight. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. I still have some matters to discuss with Jingqiu. Oh, then I shall not disturb the two of you. Qing Shi snickered. Dongbo Shuiying nodded and walked towards Jingqiu. He held her hand and left. Soon the two of them entered the house. The door closed. Dongbo Shuiying's face instantly turned pale, and sweat started to form. He grinned. So close, I almost exposed myself in front of Qing Shi. Senior Snow Eagle, you've been practicing for 10 hours. Jingqiu was shocked. It's much better than yesterday. Because I'm practicing my spear art. Dongbo Shuiying replied. Practicing spear art? Jingqiu was shocked. Practicing spear art is different from comprehending the nature of heaven and earth. It's different from you mages comprehending spells. Dongbo Shuiying said. Comprehending the nature of heaven and earth, comprehending the true meaning, and all sorts of profound mysteries have to be deduced. Some still need to be tested and perfected. The first stage, second stage, third stage, and even condensing the true deity heart. It's even more complicated for you mages to comprehend the spell models, and you need to spend a lot of effort to do so. Amen? Jingqiu nodded. The nature of heaven and earth was complicated, and only transcendents had powerful souls. Mortals would find it hard to comprehend it. It would already be amazing if they could barely reach the realm of myriad existences. When practicing spear art, I only need to pursue perfection in my spear art. I don't need to spend too much effort to deduce the true meaning. I only need to improve my spear art. Dongbo Shuang said. As for the true meaning, it's just a side effect of pursuing the spear art. Senior Snow Eagle, what do you mean? Jingqiu didn't understand. Not cultivating the true meaning but the spear art. The improvement of the spear art is the improvement of the realm. It doesn't contradict the improvement of the true meaning. Dongbo Shuang said. In reality, today's spear training had shaken Dongbo Shuang greatly. In the past he had never been tortured by pain, so he didn't feel anything. But this time, under the torture of pain, he wasn't able to spend too much effort to comprehend the true meaning or anything else. But as a result, Dongbo Shuang became even purer and more unaffected in his pursuit of spear arts. In the past he had also pursued spear arts. But every time he improved he would ponder, is this the right way? He could instantly consider countless problems and rapidly perfect his spear arts, choosing a better path for himself. But in reality, was this path really good? But this time, he didn't have the ability to think too much and ponder over the true meaning. He could only rely on his instincts. I actually combined the true meaning of star and the true meaning of extreme piercing together? Dongbo Shuang was shocked. In the past, I definitely wouldn't have allowed these two true meanings to be fused together. This was simply too reckless. But this time I actually did it. Furthermore, it seems like the power of my spear arts has increased by a little. Maybe this is a different path? Dongbo Shuang pondered. Who cares? I only have 100 to 200 years of lifespan left. What's the point of being overcautious? Since it's spear training, I should let myself be happy. As for the true meaning and whatnot, it's just a side effect. Dongbo Shuang laughed. Back then, when he was in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, he didn't have any predecessors to guide him. He purely followed his heart. Even when he was reprimanded by faction head Sikong Yang, he still persevered and eventually grasped the embryonic form of the true meaning of extreme piercing. That's how it should be. Dongbo Shuang didn't hesitate at all. Ever since I grasped hold of 3 different grade 2 true meanings, I've been blinded by their power. I've been focused on making them stronger. Dongbo Shuang sighed. But I've forgotten that what I've been pursuing in the past has always been spear arts. True meanings are meant for spear arts. Spear arts are everything. As for what true meanings I've comprehended, that's up to me. As long as my spear arts become stronger, I'll continue to improve. This couldn't be blamed on Dongbo Shuang. The true meaning of extreme piercing, true meaning of mirage, and true meaning of star were simply too powerful. They made Dongbo Shuang feel that he was omnipotent. He even felt that there was no longer anyone in the mortal world who could threaten his life. It was this encirclement that had given him a wake-up call. It had awakened him, allowing him to remember that what he had been pursuing in the past was spear arts. Actually, all these years, whether it was to deal with the demon bases or to explore the land and sea, he had never stopped to think about it. There's no need to consider too much when pursuing spear arts. That way the burden on my heart will be smaller. I can also cultivate for 10 to 12 hours a day. As time passes, I'll get used to the pain. I can even increase the amount of time I can cultivate. Dongbo Shuang nodded slightly. Even though he had been poisoned, he was still very happy to be able to practice his spear arts every day. It was as if the pain he felt during his training had been reduced. Being immersed in the world of spear arts was truly mesmerizing. The next morning, Snowrock Castle was already decorated with lanterns and colored banners. Since morning, transcendents had been arriving one after another. There were even huge ships that had arrived. The people on these ships were all transcendents from all over the world. They were all here to congratulate the legendary Dongbo Shuang. Chapter 275. The spacious ship tore open a spatial rift and flew into the clouds. Some of the transcendents looked down and saw the Snowrock Castle decorated with lanterns and colored banners. We've arrived at Snowrock Castle. I still remember watching Brother Dongbo's transcendent battle of life and death 50 years ago. At that time, I knew that Brother Dongbo's future was extraordinary. Just as I guessed, he had cultivated for less than 100 years and was already much stronger than the Eternal Wind Knight. Unfortunately, the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God plotted to take revenge, destroying the most heaven-defying transcendents in the history of our Xia people. Just thinking about it makes my heart ache. Today is a joyous occasion for Dongbo Shuiying. Let's not talk about this anymore. Right, it's a joyous occasion. Let's not talk about anything else. The ship slowly descended. A beastman lion man walked down first, followed by a group of transcendents. Brother Tanshi. The red-robed Dongbo Shuiying and his wife, Jing Qiu, came forward to welcome them. And the transcendents of the Sea Deity Palace. Brother Dongbo. Tanshi smiled. Congratulations, congratulations. You've plucked the most beautiful flower of our Xia people. You don't know how many transcendents are secretly gnashing their teeth. Haha, no problem. Let them drink a few more cups to drown their sorrows. Dongbo Shuiying joked. Right, I haven't congratulated Brother Tanshi for stepping into the demigod realm. I've also just broken through. The palace lord did not allow me to participate in the attack on the demonic faction headquarters. It's a pity that I missed such a grand occasion. Tanshi replied. Left Qiu Knight Tanshi had just broken through and was currently consolidating his foundation. As a newly advanced demigod knight, he would not be of much help. Palace Lord Qin also did not allow him to participate in the battle. After all, Qi Qiu Bai and Tanshi were the most outstanding transcendents of their generation. Other transcendents have arrived. I'll go and welcome them first. Everyone please come in and have a seat. Dongbo Shuiying said with Jing Qiu accompanying him with a smile. All right. The group of transcendents from the Sea Deity Palace entered. Dongbo Shuiying brought his wife to welcome the other group of transcendents. A transcendent's wedding did not have as many rules as a mortal's. Some transcendents could not even be bothered to hold a ceremony. After all, they had lived for a long time and were very carefree. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu also kept things simple. The two of them went to have a few drinks with their friends and guests. It was also an opportunity to tell everyone that they were officially husband and wife from now on. Transcendence. Qi Qiu Bai immediately stood up. Although he could not hide it. Qiu Bai's expression. Qiu Qi Bai immediately stood up. Even though he tried his best to conceal it, his expression was still complex. Shuiying and Shuiying understood this. Actually, the transcendents had heard that Qiu Qi Bai had experienced a love calamity in the past. From then on, Qiu Qi Bai's hair turned white in a single night, yet he became even crazier on his path of cultivation, advancing by leaps and bounds. And Qi Qiu Bai said. Well, Snow Eagle Jing Qiu. Qiu Qi Bai said, the two of you are transcendents of our tranquil Sun province, and I have always treated the two of you as brothers and sisters. Snow Eagle, I am also sad that you have met with such a calamity. However, you and Jing Qiu can always be together, which is better than countless people. You have to cherish it. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. I can't stand looking at your tender and sweet expressions. Hurry, hurry, go drink with the others. Qiu Qi Bai urged. Dongbo Shuiying and Dongbo Shuiying left immediately. Qi Qiu Bai, on the other hand, sat there. Although he was deliberately concealing it, he still drank cup after cup of wine. His gaze was deep and distant. Ah. Junior brother Snow Eagle, junior sister Jing Qiu, come, come. Wow, junior brother Snow Eagle, you look really handsome in this red robe. The group of people from the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world were all here. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu were both part of the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, and were very familiar with each other, toasting each other. Senior apprentice sister Du Ro Ro grinned, when Yong'an was still smiling, and Wu Tsang was still silent, only saying a few words of congratulations when he was toasted. Yu Feng, Puyang Bo, Zhang Peng and the rest were much more lively. Senior brother Snow Eagle, senior sister Jing Qiu, seeing the two of you together, I am really happy. I'll drink first. Yuan Qing, who usually didn't speak much, took the initiative to drink. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu had a good impression of this junior brother and chatted with him for a while. Yuan Qing was obviously a little excited. Junior brother Snow Eagle, junior sister Jing Qiu. That gentle and sweet voice sounded. It was Zhui. Jing Qiu looked at Dongbo Shuiying with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. Zhui was interested in Dongbo Shuiying, and this was not a secret among the people of the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. Seeing the two of you together, it's really good. Senior sister will also drink to you, Zhui said. Her thoughts were complicated. Towards this young man in front of her, she once admired his talent. When he was reprimanded by faction head Si Kongyang, she kept a respectful distance from him. Later on, when she rose to power, she tried to woo him again. However, regardless of whether Dongbo Shuiying was dazzling or not, he always kept a distance from her. Now that he was so dazzling, yet he had become a cripple and even had a limited lifespan, Zhui felt regretful. Even so, Zhui secretly thought, if she could marry him even if it was only for 1 or 200 years, it would not be bad to become the wife of such an important figure in the history of the Xia people. Unfortunately, from the start to the end, Dongbo Shuang had no feelings for her. The person he liked was junior sister Jingqiu. He accompanied the group of transcendents, drinking and chatting. The majority of the demigods of the Xia people only sent their qi doppelgangers, magic doppelgangers, over. After all, their main bodies needed to be stationed in various places. Currently, the entire Xia people's world was not as peaceful as it seemed on the surface. The turbulence in the dark surpassed many eras in history. The Xia people had always been on guard against the sorcerer god and the great demon god. The drinking ended and the people dispersed. In the afternoon, the transcendents began to leave one by one. In order to maintain his good condition, Dongbo Shuang drank an extra dose of the antidote. Jingqiu was still a little reluctant, but Dongbo Shuang felt that the day of the wedding was an important day for him and Jingqiu. If he were to appear in front of his friends with a pale face and drenched in sweat, how embarrassing would that be? The number of transcendents in the Snowrock Castle decreased. Palace Lord Chen also spoke a few words with Dongbo Shuang before leaving. Snow Eagle. The last to leave was Chao Qing. Chao Qing walked over. Vice Abbot Chao. Dongbo Shuang hurriedly greeted. You know of Crimson Rock Mountain, right? Chao Qing suddenly asked. Yes. Dongbo Shuang nodded. I will enter Crimson Rock Mountain in a few days. Chao Qing said. I'm old and managed to condense a true deity heart before my lifespan. That's why I'm going to Crimson Rock Mountain to gamble. Although the chances are slim, it's better to give it a try. Who knows, I might even become a god. Aha. Actually, this matter of mine is nothing much. I'm just going to try my luck. As for you, Snow Eagle, I'm actually quite pained. Dongbo Shuang felt warmth in his heart. Actually, Chao Qing had always paid close attention to him. Perhaps it was because he was old and loved the younger generation more. Even when Si Kongyang was disappointed in him, Chao Qing was still worried that he would not be able to recover from his setback. With my average talent, being able to live to the end of my lifespan, I was able to condense a true deity heart before my lifespan. But Snow Eagle, with your heaven-defying talent, you haven't even cultivated for 100 years, yet you ended up like this. Chao Qing shook his head. He was truly pained. Dongbo Shuang had only cultivated for close to 80 years. Compared to the long lifespans of transcendence, he was just a child. Everyone has their own fate. There's no need to blame the heavens. Dongbo Shuang said. In the previous battle with the demons, many transcendents of the Xia people died in battle. But at least I'm still alive. I'm already very fortunate to be able to live with my wife for 100 years. Amongst the mortals, how many can have such a blissful life? It can be said that I've already surpassed trillions of mortals. Chao Qing nodded. Snow Eagle, I've always admired your state of mind. If I were your age, I would have long gone crazy after suffering such a huge setback. Right? Does that 6 ghost resentment voodoo poison affect your cultivation? Chao Qing asked. It's very difficult. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Comprehending true intent requires all of one's mental strength. Because of the voodoo poison's influence, it's almost impossible to comprehend true intent. Fortunately, I can still practice my spear arts. There were disadvantages and advantages. The disadvantage was, when practicing spear arts, one might walk on a fork. After all, one did not have enough mental strength to judge whether it was right or wrong. The advantage was that one could disregard all influences and even disregard one's true intent. One could only focus on one thing, to make one's spear art stronger. It didn't matter if one's true intent was affected. As long as one's spear arts improved and became stronger, that was enough. After all, it was hard for him to focus on cultivating his true intent when he was in intense pain. With a wife to accompany me in something I like to do, not bad. Chao Qing nodded. Alright, this old man is leaving. Let's say our last farewell today. Haha, if this old man can really become a god and come out of Crimson Rock Mountain alive, we might meet again. I wish you success, Elder Chao, Dongbo Shuang said. Even I know that the chances are slim. But to be able to experience Crimson Rock Mountain before I die, this old man's blood really starts to boil. Chao Qing laughed, then transformed into a streak of light and soared into the sky. Dongbo Shuang raised his head and looked at him. Would he ever have the chance to see this adorable old man again? He didn't know why. Although he had never seen his grandfather before, he could feel his grandfather's aura from Chao Qing. Elder Chao, take care. Dongbo Shuang said quietly. After staying in Snowrock Castle for 3 months, he had made all the necessary arrangements. The transcendent seven-leafed flower was also given to his parents. Then, on a summer morning, Dongbua Shuiying and Jing Qiu began to roam the world together. "Brother, write to me often." "I'll come and find you often," Qing Shi shouted. "Ha! Don't worry." On the way down from Snowrock Mountain, two treading snow horses galloped forward. Dongbua Shuiying and Jing Qiu each rode a horse. The two of them were carefree and unrestrained as they traveled the world together. "You said that you'll accompany me to every corner of the world. We'll eat all kinds of delicious food and see all kinds of beautiful sceneries. You can't go back on your words." "Don't worry, I'll listen to you. If you tell me to go left, I won't dare to go right. If you tell me to go forward, I won't dare to go back. How about it? Good enough, right?" "Yes, yes, yes. Not bad, not bad." Chapter 276. Something Good. Dongbua Shuiying's gaze swept across the people in front of him, including the golden-robed man. The golden-robed man smiled and said, "I, Sand Tiger, have been in White River City for many years. I have long heard of a restaurant in White River City. The owner of the restaurant, Dongbua, is an incredible artist. I only got to meet him today." "Artist?" Palace Lord Qin laughed at the side. It was indeed interesting that the dignified Dongbua Shuiying was called an artist. Dongbua Shuiying nodded slightly. "Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger, I have long heard of your name. I wonder why you are here today?" "My teacher is here." The silver-robed man Long Tianyun stared. "Tianyun, shut up." The golden-robed man frowned. "Yes." Long Tianyun immediately shut up. He was very obedient and respectful. The golden-robed man continued with a smile, "I am here because Dongbua, you have a good disciple Yi Qing." "Yi Qing?" Shuiying frowned. Over the past 100 years, he had casually taught spear techniques to a few people, of which he was quite fond of a few of them. However, the only one whose talent caught his eye was his third disciple, Yi Qing. As for his eldest disciple, Long Tianyun, his second disciple, Qin Qin, and the other disciples he had taught, their talents were all ordinary. Even though he had taught them in accordance with their aptitudes, the chances of them becoming legend rankers in this lifetime were extremely low. After all, for a disciple to be powerful, the teacher was important, but the disciple himself was more important. Yi Qing belonged to the category of talented disciples. "Yi Qing." The golden-robed man looked at Yi Qing. "Senior Sand, if you have any problems, come at me. Why are you looking for my teacher?" The red-robed man Yi Qing said angrily. The golden-robed man said, "I am not looking for trouble. I am here to accept you as my disciple." "Accept me as your disciple?" Yi Qing was startled. Dongbua Shuiying was also startled. "Snatching disciples? Haha, I never thought that the young man my daughter likes is you." The golden-robed man laughed. "Although you have offended me before, it was unintentional. Since my daughter likes you and your talent is high, you should accept me as your teacher. Join my Scarlet Flames Fortress and become my disciple. I can guarantee that you will become a legend ranker. I will give you the best Doqi cultivation method so that you can cultivate faster. I will also give you better weapons. Haha, after that you can become my son-in-law. We will be a family." White River City was only so big and Yi Qing was quite strong, so he naturally caught the eye of the Scarlet Flame Knight, Sand Tiger. But upon closer inspection he was shocked. This brat who had just passed the age of 20 had actually reached the level of a spear grandmaster. Most people might not be able to see through it, but he himself was a grandmaster. With a single glance, he could tell that it was a grandmaster spear technique. It must be known that many legend rankers were not even at the level of a grandmaster in terms of combat techniques. This Yi Qing brat was practically guaranteed to become a legend ranker. In addition, he also knew that the young man his daughter had always liked was this Yi Qing. Thus, Shahu decided to have Long Tianyun lead the way to this Dongyu restaurant. "Impossible." Yi Qing shook his head. "What did you say?" The golden-robed man, Sand Tiger, thought that he had misheard. "Master's kindness towards me is as heavy as a mountain. When I was under Master's tutelage, I was only 11 years old. I didn't have a father and my mother didn't care about me. I couldn't eat well. It was Master who gave me food, bought me clothes, taught me spear techniques, taught me Doqi techniques. To me, this is my home," Yi Qing said. Dongbua Shuiying heard this and his heart warmed. He couldn't help but reveal a smile. "This brat Yi Qing, I can't leave and I can't join your Scarlet Flame Fortress. Senior Sand, you are a legend knight, a peak existence in the entire White River County. What difference does it make if I join your Scarlet Flame Fortress or not?" Yi Qing said. You are going to accompany a group of children to practice such crude spear techniques in this place? The golden-robed man frowned and shouted, Yi Qing, you should have a wider world. Master's health isn't good. Naturally, I have to accompany Master. Yi Qing said. Standing beside Palace Lord Qin and Jing Qiu, Dongbo Shuiying was even happier when he heard this. Yi Qing, this mysterious guy, had long since trained his spear techniques to such a high level. Every day he would come over to accompany me to practice with those children. So, it was because of my poor health. Among his disciples, Dongbo Shuiying really liked Yi Qing the most. When he first met Yi Qing was only 11 years old. He was a skinny and weak brat who looked like an ordinary 7 or 8-year-old kid. Even in the middle of winter, he was dressed in rags. He was usually very well behaved, willing to work hard and obedient. He never thought that to Yi Qing this Dongyu restaurant had already become his home, and he had become his family. The golden-robed man said angrily, All right, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Do you like my daughter? Of course I do, Yi Qing said. Then come with me. The golden-robed man said angrily, If you dare to refuse, you and my daughter will never be able to be together. Moreover, if I give the order, your sickly master's Dongyu restaurant will be shut down. In fact, if I give the order, your master and the others will not have a good life. Yi Qing was furious. However, he was clear of the influence of this veteran titled Knight, Sand Tiger. In the entire Baijiang County, Sand Tiger was one of the top 3 strongest titled knights. You want to shut down my restaurant and make my life miserable? What a big mouth. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. You sure are arrogant. The sorcerer god and the great demon god both wanted to kill you, but didn't they fail? The palace lord Qin laughed as well. The golden-robed Sand Tiger was stunned. Sorcerer god? The great demon god? The sorcerer god of the sorcerer god palace? The great demon god of the demonic faction? These two existences were too far away. They were not beings from the Xia people's world, but powerful spirits from the deity realm and the dark abyss. Wu Lei, teach him a lesson and chase him out. Dongbo Shuiying casually ordered. Yes, master. The white-haired elder respectfully replied. At this moment, the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger, his subordinates Long Tianyun, and his disciple Yi Qing were all staring blankly at this scene. The white-haired elder then turned his head to look at the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger. You. The Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger was stunned. An old man dared to attack him? You dare to disrespect master. The white-haired elder stretched out his hand. His palm immediately turned into a white fog, and the white fog instantly grabbed the golden-robed man. The golden-robed man felt that he was surrounded by fog. He wanted to struggle, but he couldn't. This caused him to reveal a look of fear. He was a titled knight, but he couldn't even struggle. Being grabbed by the white fog, the golden-robed man Sand Tiger spread his arms and legs wide open. The dignified Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger slammed his face into the ground. In an instant he slammed over 100 times. Every slap was extremely heavy, and even the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger spat out blood. How strong was a titled knight's body? He had already spat out blood, but there wasn't even a dent in the ground. The white-haired elder casually swung his arm, and the golden-robed man Sand Tiger fell to the side like a dead dog. Everyone was stunned, and Long Tianyun was even more confused. Senior. The golden-robed man Sand Tiger suddenly crawled to his feet. Disregarding his injuries, he was incomparably respectful, and even somewhat flattering. Senior, may I ask who you are? How cunning was the Sand Tiger? How could he not know that this white-haired elder was a terrifying existence? He was definitely a transcendent. The white-haired elder Wu Lei said, I am only master's weakest servant. This wasn't a lie. Among the deity warriors under his command, Wu Lei was indeed the weakest. However, he still had the strength of a veteran demigod. The weakest servant? Sand Tiger looked at Dongbo Shuiying, Jing Qiu, and Palace Lord Qin in horror. Master. Suddenly, a loud shout rang out. Put on. Long Tianyun knelt heavily on the ground. His eyes were red and filled with tears. He looked at Dongbo Shuiying and shouted, Master, I was wrong. Tianyun was wrong. Dongbo Shuiying was instantly shocked. This eldest disciple of his had once again surpassed his understanding of him. He had originally been disappointed in him, but now he was no longer just disappointed. He was completely speechless towards Long Tianyun. A person couldn't be this shameless. Scram. Dongbo Shuiying suddenly waved his sleeves. Boom, a formless energy instantly enveloped the golden-robed man, Sand Tiger Long Tianyun, and his subordinates. Shua, this group of people disappeared. In a luxurious castle in White River City, it occupied an area of more than 1 kilometer. It was even larger than Snow Rock Castle. For it to be so large in the entire county city, one could see how powerful it was. This was the Scarlet Flames Castle. A large group of people appeared out of thin air in the training grounds where the guards of the Scarlet Flames Castle usually gathered. At the same time, a group of horses also appeared out of thin air. Long Tianyun was still kneeling heavily on the ground. Sand Tiger was also somewhat stunned. The soldiers and the large group of horses were also stunned. Following that, a commotion broke out and the horses neighed. Clearly, the sudden change in the surroundings was too much for the horses to bear. This is the Scarlet Flames Castle? Sand Tiger was stunned. This was his home, so of course he recognized it. We've reached the Scarlet Flames Castle? Long Tianyun was also stunned. With just a wave of his sleeves, we all went from Dongyu Restaurant to the Scarlet Flames Castle? This is the power of a fiend god. Even the transcendents I've heard of aren't this powerful. Could this be the legendary demigod of our Xia people? Sand Tiger gulped. At this time, a large group of guards and many family members of the Scarlet Flames Castle rushed over. They were all shocked and bewildered. Father, why are you all here? Father, why are you covered in blood and filth? A green-robed young lady with bright eyes and white teeth ran over. Little Chi, my obedient daughter. Sand Tiger laughed loudly. It's fine, father is fine. I approve of the matter between you and Yi Qing. I approve very much. If you have time, bring Yi Qing over here. Me and Yi Qing? The young lady was somewhat dazed by the surprise of her arrival. Sand Tiger suddenly looked at Long Tianyun, who was kneeling beside him in a daze. His eyes were filled with disgust as he shouted, "Throw this Long Tianyun out. He can forget about taking another step into the Scarlet Flames Castle." Yes. Instantly, a group of guards rushed forward and grabbed Long Tianyun. My master, he. Long Tianyun could never forget the scene of his sickly master, Dong Bo, waving his sleeves. With a wave of his sleeves, the heavens and earth changed. Chapter 277. Time flowed by like flowing water. 100 years could change many things. To the mortals of the Xia people's world, the name Dongbo Shuang had already become a legend. There were even biographies of Dongbo Shuang circulating around. Even for the transcendence of the Xia people. Having not seen Dongbo Shuang for 100 years, their memories of him had already started to fade. Dongbo Shuang brought his wife to travel around the Xia people's world. Only a few of his close friends knew of his whereabouts. Ordinary transcendents did not even know where he was. The Xia people's world was located in a beautiful ancient city in the southeast of the mainland, Baijiang City. In Baijiang City, there was a restaurant that had been open for more than 10 years. Its name was Dongyu Restaurant. The owner of the restaurant was a young couple. The man seemed to be ill and his face was pale. However, he treated his customers very well. His wife was quite beautiful, but she rarely appeared in the restaurant. Baijiang City spring is really beautiful. It's a different scenery from Water Rights Town. In a corner of the second floor of the restaurant, a man dressed in white was holding a paintbrush. He sat there and looked at the scenery outside through the window. There was a street outside and beside the street was a river. On both sides of the river there were weeping willows. Thousands of weeping willows danced in the wind. There were also plum blossoms and other unknown flowers blooming. The sunlight from the south was even more dazzling and colorful. When it shone on the green trees and red flowers, the colors became even more colorful. Dongbo Shuang had lived in Baijiang City for 15 years. However, he still liked this city very much. All these years. He and Jingqiu had already traveled to every city in the Xia people's world. Regardless of whether it was a county city or a small city, they had even stayed in some of their favorite places for a long period of time. They had lived in oases and deserts, on prairies, on mountain peaks for a long time, and on islands. There were also countless delicacies that they loved the most. For example, when they opened this restaurant in Baijiang City, they had poached 2 of their favorite chefs and offered them extremely good conditions. The 2 chefs cooked very little every day. Other than serving Dongbo Shuang and his wife, they only cooked a small amount for outsiders. Most of the dishes were cooked by their disciples. Even so, the Dongyu restaurant had gained quite a reputation in White River Town over the past 10 years. Yeah. The most beautiful thing in White River City is spring. If you miss it, it'll be gone forever. Dongbo Shuang sat there muttering to himself. One of his hands was pressing on the paper, and the other was holding a paintbrush, drawing on the paper. His paintbrush was like a knife, and each stroke was precise and exquisite. He had clearly drawn out the ravine on the bark of a weeping willow by the roadside. "Boss, this painting is really good. Sell it to me for 10 gold coins. A silver-haired old man walked over. The old man looked at the painting with an infatuated look. 100 gold coins, I won't sell anything lower. Shui Ying casually muttered, "I say, old Cho, don't keep tormenting me. Don't tell me you don't know the rules of selling paintings? This kind of small painting is 100 gold coins, I won't sell any lower." "You haven't finished painting yet," the silver-haired old man muttered. "We've known each other for more than 10 years. Moreover, your paintings are too expensive. 100 gold coins is enough to buy a star-breaking crossbow and hire a group of knights. Look, how many paintings have you sold after so many years? It's been more than 10 years, and I remember that the number of paintings sold can be counted with one's fingers. But you've already painted more than 1,000 paintings. Moreover, even the paintings of famous masters are usually only worth 100 to 1,000 gold coins. I'm not famous, but old Cho. I'll give you one word. Buy it or leave it." Dongbo Shuang grinned and glanced at the old man. He could tell that the old man really liked his paintings. This old man really liked his paintings. Shuang questioned himself. Regarding painting techniques and artistic conception, he was absolutely not inferior to those mortals, experts. Of course, his paintings were not packaged or boasted, so he didn't have any fame. However, he was just playing for fun. Moreover, every painting contained some of Dongbo Shui Ying's comprehension towards spear arts. If one's mastery of spear arts had reached the level of a master, they might be able to comprehend a thing or two. In the past few years he had sold a total of 5 paintings. Among them, 3 were bought by Palace Head Qin, Mountain Lord He, and Yuan Qing. The other 2 were bought by a spear expert and a young master from a rich family. That young master was even a good friend of his. As the owner of a restaurant, he had made many friends, and this old Cho was one of them. He was too stingy. Of course, it could also be because the price of his paintings was too high. Dongbo Shuang suddenly snorted. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead, and his fingers trembled. Instantly, a stroke appeared on the painting, and it was ruined. "Ah." Dongbo Shuang stood up and tore the painting. "Don't." The silver-haired old man hurriedly said, "You can give this to me." But Dongbo Shuang tore it in 2 or 3 moves. "Old Cho, if it's not done well, I won't keep it." It was like the pursuit of the extreme in spear arts. Painting was the same as spear arts. If it was not done well, he would rather destroy it than keep it. "How heartache." The silver-haired old man, old Cho, shook his head. Dongbo Shuang laughed. When he and Jing Qiu moved out of White River City, he would gift a painting to old Cho as a gift. But for now, everything had to be done according to the rules. Without paying 100 gold coins, don't even think about taking away a painting. Dongbo Shuang stood up and walked towards the stairs. He frowned and thought to himself, the effects of the 100-bitter cycle are getting weaker and weaker. After consuming it for over 100 years, the 6 ghost resentment hexing poison in his body had gradually adapted to it, and the effects of the 100-bitter cycle were getting weaker and weaker. Even if he had just consumed it, the suppressive effects were already very weak, and the pain was terrifying. Not long after, the medicinal effects would completely disappear, and he would have to consume it every 2 hours. It could be said that he was constantly being tortured by this terrifying pain. Time and time again, Dongbo Shuang had the urge to drink the antidote. Although he knew that the effects were weak, it was still better than nothing. But he still endured it. I finally understand why many people who are poisoned don't live past 100 years. It's easy to endure it once, but to endure it day and night, it's really difficult. Dongbo Shuang thought to himself, but this can be considered as training my spirit and willpower. I'm afraid that in the entire mortal world, my spirit and willpower should be ranked at the very top. Initially, he was in so much pain that he couldn't control his body and would roll around. But now, he would only occasionally lose control of his muscles under extreme pain. This was all due to the suppression of willpower. "Master." The gray-robed man who was leaning against the railing and drinking leisurely walked over and said softly, "Swordsman, don't worry about me," Dongbo Shuang said as he walked downstairs. Swordsman was the 5th of the 5 shadows from the deity world. When Dongbo Shuang and Jing Qiu traveled outside, they would need subordinates to handle some miscellaneous matters. Thus, they brought along their weakest subordinates, the White Fog Ape and Swordsman. Walking down the stairs, Bei Feng walked through the back door of a restaurant and entered a courtyard. This was the residence of Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu for the past 10+ years. Ha! Ah! Crisp sounds rang out one after another. With a smile on his face, Shuiying entered the training grounds. Within the training grounds, there was a group of people practicing their spear techniques. The youngest of them was probably only 6 or 7 years old. Their spear dance was quite interesting and fun. The oldest was already over 20 years old, and their movements were extremely graceful. Master! Master! When Dongbo Shuiying arrived, they stopped and greeted him. You guys can continue. There's no need to mind me. Dongbo Shuiying smiled. Because he was teaching spear arts for free, some of the children in the surrounding areas would come over to learn spear arts. However, he was only teaching them basic spear arts. Even if some of them had been practicing diligently for a few years, although he had taught them doqi techniques, they looked very ordinary on the surface. So far, he had only taught them doqi techniques to 5 disciples. Thus, there were not many people who came here to learn spear arts. Most of the neighbors probably thought that this place was meant to look after the children. Thunder mist. Dongbo Shuiying suddenly called out. Hua! Immediately, a white-haired old man arrived at the training field and walked over. This white-haired old man was the white fog ape. Thunder mist could transform into mist, and it could also change into various forms. Naturally, it was better to transform into a human form when traveling outside. Master! The white-haired old man greeted respectfully. The youths who were practicing spear arts did not find it strange at all, because they knew that this was Butler Bai. They had heard that he was a Star Realm expert. Hurry up and get ready, the Palace Lord Qin is here. Dongbo Shuiying said. Yes. The white-haired old man immediately retreated. Chapter 278. Dongbo Shuiying raised his head and looked at the sky a few hundred li away. Not long after, a spatial crack appeared and a figure appeared. He looked in Dongbo Shuiying's direction. Their gazes met and they both smiled. Following that, the figure teleported and disappeared. Dongbo Shuiying walked to the closed north gate and opened it. A black-haired old man stood outside. Snow Eagle, the black-haired old man said with a smile. Palace Lord Qin, what brings you here today? Dongbo Shuiying led the way and the two walked in together. Of course I have something to discuss with you. This is my first time coming to Baijiang City. It's not bad, it's very beautiful. Palace Lord Qin smiled and praised. Snow Eagle, you really know how to pick a place. The last time we met was 30 years ago, right? It was on the beach of an island. The scenery there was so beautiful that even I was stunned. To be honest, you two really know how to pick a place. I've lived for almost 2,000 years, but I've never been to many places. So, Palace Lord Qin, you have to travel around as well. You have to explore the entire Xia people's world. Dongbo Shuiying said, I've done it before when I was looking for the demon general, so I know where to bring Jing Qiu. If you want to go, I'll give you a list later. But to be honest, it's best to slowly experience the world. The customs of each place are different and it's very interesting. I'm too busy, Palace Lord Qin shook his head. At this time, 2 people walked over from a distant corridor. One was Jing Qiu, who was wearing a dark blue robe, and the other was the white-haired old man Wu Lei. Master, the preparations are done. The white-haired old man quickly walked to Dongbo Shuiying's side and said softly. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Mage Jing Qiu, long time no see. The Palace Lord Qin smiled. He still held Jing Qiu in high regard, and had strong expectations for her. Although she became a transcendent a few years later than Dongbo Shuiying, she was still a sorcerer. Mages cultivated slowly in the early stages, and many mages only started to gradually cultivate magic after they reached adulthood. Mages needed to accumulate a lot. Therefore, the fact that Jing Qiu had become a transcendent magician at such a young age was also very shocking. It was just that she was overshadowed by Dongbo Shuiying back then. Yuan Qing also had the same treatment as her. Yuan Qing had stepped into the transcendent realm at the age of 30, 2 years later than Dongbo Shuiying and even earlier than Qi Qiu Bai. Furthermore, he had comprehended the profound mysteries of the third-grade true meaning of light and darkness the moment he stepped into the transcendent realm. His talent was similarly high. But at that time the most dazzling person was Dongbo Shuiying. His brilliance covered everyone else. He was publicly acknowledged as the most talented transcendent in the history of the Xia people. Even the sorcerer god and the great demon god did not hesitate to pay any price to deal with Dongbo Shuiying. And now that 100 years had passed, both Jing Qiu and Yuan Qing had begun to shine. Because of the deity weapon Ancestor Snow, Jing Qiu had received the full support of the Xia clan. In addition, Shuang had spared no effort in helping her. Naturally, she had long since become a peak stage Saint Mage, and was even ranked 9th on the Saint rankings. Yuan Qing was even more dazzling. 30 years after breaking through the demonic faction headquarters, Yuan Qing had grasped the complete Grade 3 true meaning of light and darkness. Not long ago he had reached the Stage 2 realm of the true meaning of light and darkness. In terms of cultivation speed, although he was not as fast as Dongbo Shuang, he was much faster than Chiqiu by back then. Currently he was ranked 2nd on the Saint board. As for the 1st on the Saint board? Naturally it was Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang had requested to have his name removed from the board because it was pointless. But the Saint board still required some authority. It was not something he could remove just because he wanted to. Nobody doubted Dongbo Shuang's strength. Even with the strength he had displayed 100 years ago, only the top 10 demigods could suppress Dongbo Shuang. It has indeed been a long time. Palace Lord Qin, why didn't you inform us beforehand that you were coming over? Jingqiu said. The few of them were chatting at the edge of the training grounds. Dongbo Shuang's disciples did not dare to relax. All of them were practicing their spear techniques, shouting loudly. They could not hear what Dongbo Shuang and the others were saying. They thought that it was because they were too far away and their shouting was too noisy. Suddenly the ground began to tremble. And? Dongbo Shuang and the others turned their heads to look outside the north gate. A group of knights appeared in the alley outside the north gate. They were riding on majestic horses. Very quickly, under the escort of the group of knights, a majestic man wearing a golden robe walked in. Behind him was a group of subordinates. Snow Eagle, he seems to be looking for you? Palace Lord Qin laughed. And? Dongbo Shuang nodded. His gaze landed on a silver-robed youth beside the majestic man. The silver-robed youth carried a spear holster on his back. Inside the holster was a long spear that had been split into 2 parts. The youth's face carried a faint trace of arrogance. Seeing this youth, Dongbo Shuang frowned. He could not help but feel a little resentful. Big senior brother? Big senior brother? The group of people who were practicing their spear techniques, regardless of whether they were young or old, shouted excitedly. This is my current teacher. He is a legend knight. The silver-robed youth said. Legend knight? Oh my god. These youngsters from ordinary families were shocked when they heard the words legend knight. To them, legend knights were simply legends. Wow, big senior brother, you actually have a legend knight as your teacher. That's too amazing. These youngsters were all excited. In the Xia people, it was very normal to have a few teachers. Brother Dongbo. The silver-robed youth looked at Dongbo Shuang. His eyelids twitched as he arrogantly said, You have seen my teacher. Why aren't you coming over to pay your respects? Long Tianyun. Among the group of people who were practicing their spear techniques, the oldest one was a youth dressed in red. He was over 20 years old. He angrily shouted, How can you treat your teacher like this? You have been learning spear techniques from your teacher for a total of 12 years. Your family owed a huge debt. When someone came to collect the debt, it was my teacher who helped your family repay the debt. You were so brave and fierce. When you were seriously injured, it was my teacher who hired people to treat you. He provided for you to eat and drink, raised you up, and treated you like a family member. You shut up. The silver-robed youth angrily shouted. You still have the face to ask me to shut up. The red-robed youth angrily said. He was the one who was heartless first. The silver-robed youth angrily said. I was his disciple, not a beast. Beating, scolding, punishing, he simply didn't treat me as a human. Since that's the case, I will cut all ties with him. However, I, Long Tianyun, will remember his kindness in the past. In the future, I will naturally repay him. Is it not right for your teacher to punish you? You took the money that your teacher wanted you to buy for senior sister's dowry. You actually went to a brothel to drink and compete for the title of courtesan. That was the dowry for senior sister's wedding. Is it wrong for me to punish you? What is this bit of money to my teacher? Just because of this bit of money he punished me. The silver-robed youth coldly snorted. At the side, Palace Lord Qin smiled and said, Snow Eagle, it seems that you are not good at teaching disciples. I am ashamed. Dongbo Shuang also shook his head. Back then, when he opened this restaurant, besides practicing his spear, he was also willing to teach the surrounding children for free. Because he looked like a sickly person, not many people came to learn. There were only 3 of them. This silver-robed youth, Long Tianyun, was the eldest disciple. The other girl, Qin Qin, was already married and was the second senior sister. At this moment, the one arguing with Long Tianyun was the third junior brother, Yiqing. Dongbua Shuiying looked at the silver-robed youth and shook his head inwardly. He had watched him grow up step by step from a skinny youth. He had a bad temper, and Dongbua Shuiying had often guided him. Unfortunately, his kindness turned into hatred. He drank all of his junior sister's dowry and threw it away. Dongbua Shuiying only punished him once before he cut all ties with him. After 12 years, even cats and dogs would develop feelings, let alone humans. Furthermore, with Dongbua Shuiying's state of mind, he would not get angry with a little fellow. He was just a little disappointed. Unexpectedly, when he saw him today, he actually called him Brother Dongbua. Really, he completely did not treat him as his teacher. The 12 years of kindness was completely gone. Enough, Dongbua Shuiying said. The moment he spoke, the third junior brother Yiqing and Long Tianyun both stopped. Brother Dongbua? What a good brother Dongbua. Dongbua Shuiying looked at Long Tianyun. Dare I ask you, now that you are the disciple of a titled knight, why are you here? I called you Brother Dongbua because of our old friendship. The silver-robed youth, Long Tianyun, harumphed coldly. As for me coming here, it's naturally a good thing. To you, it's an extremely good thing. Asterisk asterisk. Chapter 279. Something good. Dongbua Shuiying's gaze swept across the people in front of him, including the golden-robed man. The golden-robed man smiled and said, I, Sand Tiger, have been in White River City for many years. I have long heard of a restaurant in White River City. The owner of the restaurant, Dongbua, is an incredible artist. I only got to meet him today. Artist? Palace Lord Qin laughed at the side. It was indeed interesting that the dignified Dongbua Shuiying was called an artist. Dongbua Shuiying nodded slightly. Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger, I have long heard of your name. I wonder why you are here today? My teacher is here. The silver-robed man Long Tianyun stared. Tianyun, shut up. The golden-robed man frowned. Yes. Long Tianyun immediately shut up. He was very obedient and respectful. The golden-robed man continued with a smile. I am here because Dongbua, you have a good disciple Yiqing. Yiqing? Shuiying frowned. Over the past 100 years, he had casually taught spear techniques to a few people, of which he was quite fond of a few of them. However, the only one whose talent caught his eye was his third disciple, Yiqing. As for his eldest disciple, Long Tianyun, his second disciple, Qin Qin, and the other disciples he had taught, their talents were all ordinary. Even though he had taught them in accordance with their aptitudes, the chances of them becoming legend rankers in this lifetime were extremely low. After all, for a disciple to be powerful, the teacher was important, but the disciple himself was more important. Yiqing belonged to the category of talented disciples. Yiqing. The golden-robed man looked at Yiqing. Senior Sand, if you have any problems, come at me. Why are you looking for my teacher? The red-robed man Yiqing said angrily. The golden-robed man said, I am not looking for trouble. I am here to accept you as my disciple. Accept me as your disciple? Yiqing was startled. Dongbua Shuiying was also startled. Stealing disciples? Haha, I never thought that the young man my daughter likes is you. The golden-robed man laughed. Although you have offended me before, it was unintentional. Since my daughter likes you and your talent is high, you should accept me as your teacher. Join my Scarlet Flames Fortress and become my disciple. I can guarantee that you will become a legend ranker. I will give you the best Dochi cultivation method so that you can cultivate faster. I will also give you better weapons. Haha, after that you can become my son-in-law. We will be a family. White River City was only so big and Yiqing was quite strong, so he naturally caught the eye of the Scarlet Flame Knight, Sand Tiger. But upon closer inspection he was shocked. This brat who had just passed the age of 20 had actually reached the level of a spear grandmaster. Most people might not be able to see through it, but he himself was a grandmaster. With a single glance, he could tell that it was a grandmaster spear technique. It must be known that many legend rankers were not even at the level of a grandmaster in terms of combat techniques. This Yiqing brat was practically guaranteed to become a legend ranker. In addition, he also knew that the young man his daughter had always liked was this Yiqing. Thus, Xiaohu decided to have Long Tianyun lead the way to this Dongyu restaurant. Impossible. Yiqing shook his head. What did you say? The golden-robed Sand Tiger thought that he had misheard. Master's kindness towards me is as heavy as a mountain. When I was under Master's tutelage, I was only 11 years old. I didn't have a father and my mother didn't care about me. I couldn't eat well. It was Master who gave me food, bought me clothes, taught me spear techniques, taught me dochi techniques. To me this is my home, Yi Qing said. When Dongbo Shuang heard this, his heart warmed, and he couldn't help but reveal a smile. This brat Yi Qing, it's impossible for me to leave. It's impossible for me to join your Scarlet Flame Fortress. Senior Sand, you are a legend knight, a peak existence in the entire White River County. What difference does it make if I join your Scarlet Flame Fortress or not? Yi Qing said. You are going to accompany a group of children to practice such crude spear techniques in this place? The golden-robed man frowned and shouted, Yi Qing, you should have a wider world. Master's health isn't good. Naturally, I have to accompany Master, Yi Qing said. Standing beside Palace Lord Qin and Jing Qiu, Dongbo Shuang was even happier when he heard this. Yi Qing, this mysterious guy, had long since trained his spear techniques to such a high level. Every day he would come over to practice with those children to accompany him. So it was because he saw that Dongbo Shuang's health wasn't good. Among his disciples, Dongbo Shuang really liked Yi Qing the most. When he first met Yi Qing was only 11 years old. He was a skinny and weak brat who looked like an ordinary 7 or 8-year-old kid. Even in the middle of winter, he was dressed in rags. He was usually very well behaved, willing to work hard and obedient. He never thought that to Yi Qing this Dongyu restaurant had already become his home, and he had become his family. Umph. The golden-robed man said angrily, All right, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Do you like my daughter? Of course I do, Yi Qing said. Then come with me. The golden-robed man said angrily, If you dare to refuse, you and my daughter will never be able to be together. Moreover, if I give the order, your sickly master's Dongyu restaurant will be shut down. Even if I give a slight signal, your master and the others will not have a good life. Yi Qing was furious. However, he was clear of the influence of this veteran titled Knight, Sand Tiger. In the entire Baijiang County, Sand Tiger was one of the top 3 strongest titled knights. You want to shut down my restaurant and make my life miserable? What a big mouth. Dongbo Shuang laughed. You sure are arrogant. The sorcerer god and the great demon god both wanted to kill you, but didn't they fail? The palace lord Qin laughed as well. The golden-robed Sand Tiger was stunned. Sorcerer god? The great demon god? The sorcerer god of the sorcerer god palace? The great demon god of the demonic faction? These two existences were too far away. They were not beings from the Xia people's world, but powerful spirits from the deity realm and the dark abyss. Wu Lei, teach him a lesson and chase him out. Dongbo Shuang casually ordered. Yes, master. The white-haired elder respectfully replied. At this moment, the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger, his subordinates, Long Tianyun, and his disciple Yi Qing were all staring blankly at this scene. The white-haired elder then turned his head to look at the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger. You. The Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger was stunned. An old man dared to attack him? You dare to be disrespectful to master. The white-haired elder stretched out his hand. His palm immediately turned into a white fog, and the white fog instantly grabbed the golden-robed man. The golden-robed man felt that he was surrounded by fog. He wanted to struggle, but he was unable to do so. This caused a look of fear to appear on his face. He was a titled knight, but he was unable to struggle at all. Being grabbed by the white fog, the golden-robed man Sand Tiger spread his arms and legs wide open. The dignified Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger slammed his face into the ground. In an instant he slammed over 100 times. Every strike was extremely heavy, and even the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger spat out blood. How strong was a titled knight's body? He had already spat out blood, but there wasn't even a dent in the ground. The white-haired elder casually swung his arm, and the golden-robed man Sand Tiger fell to the side like a dead dog. Everyone was stunned, and Long Tianyun was even more confused. Senior. The golden-robed man Sand Tiger suddenly crawled to his feet. Disregarding his injuries, he was incomparably respectful, and even somewhat flattering. Senior, may I ask who you are? How cunning was the Sand Tiger? How could he not know that this white-haired elder was a terrifying existence? He was definitely a transcendent. The white-haired elder Wu Lei said, I am only Master's weakest servant. This was not a lie. Among the deity warriors under his command, Wu Lei was indeed the weakest. However, he still had the strength of a veteran demigod. The weakest servant? Sand Tiger looked at Dongbo Shuang, Jing Qiu, and Palace Lord Qin in horror. Master. Suddenly a loud shout rang out. Put on. Long Tianyun knelt heavily on the ground. His eyes were red and filled with tears. He looked at Dongbo Shuang and shouted, "Master, I was wrong. Tianyun was wrong." Dongbo Shuang was instantly shocked. This eldest disciple of his had once again surpassed his understanding of him. Originally he had been disappointed in him, but now he was no longer just disappointed. He was completely speechless towards Long Tianyun. A person could not be this shameless. Scram. Dongbo Shuang suddenly waved his sleeves. Boom! A formless energy instantly enveloped the golden-robed man, Sand Tiger, Long Tianyun, and his subordinates. Shua, this group of people disappeared. Inside a luxurious castle in White River City, it occupied an area of more than 1 kilometer, and was even larger than Snow Rock Castle. For it to be so large in the entire county city, one could see how powerful it was. This was the Scarlet Flames Castle. A large group of people appeared out of thin air on a drill ground where the guards of the Scarlet Flames Castle usually trained. At the same time, a group of horses also appeared out of thin air. Long Tianyun was still kneeling heavily on the ground. Sand Tiger was also in a daze. The soldiers and the large group of horses were all stunned. Following that, a commotion broke out and the horses neighed. Clearly, the sudden change in the surroundings was too much for the horses to bear. This is the Scarlet Flames Castle? Sand Tiger was stunned. This was his home, so of course he recognized it. We've reached the Scarlet Flames Castle? Long Tianyun was also stunned. With just a wave of his sleeves, we all went from Dongyu Restaurant to the Scarlet Flames Castle? This is the power of a fiend god. Even the transcendents I've heard of aren't this powerful. Could this be the legendary demigod of our Xia people? Sand Tiger gulped. He was a little scared. At this time, a large group of guards and many family members of the Scarlet Flames Castle rushed over. They were all shocked and bewildered. "Father, why are you all here? Father, why are you covered in blood and filth?" A green-robed young lady with bright eyes and white teeth ran over. "Little Chi, my obedient daughter." Sand Tiger laughed. "It's fine, father is fine. I approve of the matter between you and Yi Qing. I approve very much. If you have time, bring Yi Qing here." "Me and Yi Qing?" The young lady was somewhat dazed by the surprise of her arrival. Sand Tiger suddenly looked at Long Tianyun, who was kneeling beside him in a daze. His eyes were filled with disgust as he shouted, "Throw this Long Tianyun out. He can forget about taking another step into the Scarlet Flames Castle." "Yes." Instantly, a group of guards rushed forward and grabbed Long Tianyun. My master, he." Long Tianyun could never forget the scene of his sickly master, Dong Bo, waving his sleeves. With a wave of his sleeves, the heavens and earth changed. Chapter 280. In the northern courtyard of Dongyu Restaurant, the youngsters including Yi Qing, were all blinking their eyes. If the familiar housekeeper by casually trampled on the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger was unbelievable to them, then the sickly master that they were most familiar with a wave of his hand, a large group of people and horses disappeared into thin air. This was simply shocking to them. "Master Yu?" Yi Qing looked at Dongbo Shuang. "That's not right, Master's body is indeed not well. It has been more than 10 years and I have been with Master day and night, there is no way I am wrong. There is no need for Master to keep pretending to be sick. Actually, Dongbo is just my surname." Dongbo Shuang said, "My actual name is Dongbo Shuang." "Dongbo Shuang?" Yi Qing was confused. The others beside him were also confused. "Who is it?" "Ha ha ha." Palace Lord Qin laughed out loud upon seeing this. "Snow Eagle, your disciples have never heard of your name. Tell me your name, ha." Dongbo Shuang was also speechless. Alright, back when he was a legend ranker, the number of transcendents he knew was very few. His disciple Yi Qing's strength was even weaker than him back then, and his knowledge was probably much lower. Transcendents were too far away for him, and most of them only knew about transcendents through biographies and novels. Biographies and novels were usually about transcendents from a long time ago. Although biographies and novels about Dongbo Shuang had started to circulate, they were still limited to only a few places. Furthermore, there were not many people who liked to read biographies and novels. This disciple of his, Yi Qing, did not read biographies and novels. "You will know in the future." Dongbo Shuang smiled. Yi Qing was also somewhat ashamed that he did not even know what his master's name represented. He secretly decided that he would ask around later on, who exactly was this Dongbo Shuang? As a disciple, how could he not know his master's name? "Master then big senior brother?" Yi Qing said. He is not your big senior brother. Dongbo Shuang shook his head. Then how should we treat Long Tianyun in the future? Yi Qing asked. Just pretend that you don't know this person, Dongbo Shuang said. Alright, I still have something to do. You go ahead. As he spoke, he turned around and accompanied Palace Lord Qin down the corridor. Along the corridor, Dongbo Shuang, Palace Lord Qin and Jing Qiu walked side by side, while Butler Wu Lei followed behind them. Snow Eagle, you're really good at teaching disciples. When it comes to choosing disciples, character is very important. Palace Lord Qin said with a smile, either you choose carefully and only accept disciples after you've confirmed their character and talent, or you nurture them from young. I'm just traveling around the Xia people's world and casually teaching them some basic spear techniques. Dongbo Shuang said. Everything is up to fate. You don't have to be demanding. Jing Qiu said, when that Long Tianyun first came here to learn spear techniques, he was the oldest. He was already 15 years old. 15 is too old and it's hard to change one's character. I already knew that he had a bad temper and tried to persuade Snow Eagle to chase him out, but Snow Eagle felt that he was too pitiful. His bad temper was also caused by his family. Dongbo Shuang said. His father was a gambling addict and would beat and scold him as he pleased. He even asked for debts. His body was weak and sickly and he almost starved to death. He came here to learn spear techniques so that he could eat his fill. How could I chase him away just because he had a bad temper? Let him die of sickness and starvation outside? Since he came here to learn spear techniques, it means that we are fated. I have to help him out of that quagmire. It's just that I didn't expect that even though his temper was a bit bad, he didn't do anything bad. He was quite obedient in front of me. But the older he gets, the more disappointed I am. Dongbo Shuang shook his head. The older he got. As Long Tianyun's strength increased, the flaws in his character were also revealed. He liked to fight, was extravagant and was ostentatious. It was as though his childhood was too bitter, and he became even more extravagant when he grew up. Because he was the oldest and his talent in cultivation was limited, Dongbo Shuiying's initial plan was to groom his third disciple, find a good husband for his second disciple, and arrange for Dragon Mountain Manor to take care of her. As for his eldest disciple, he would let her manage this restaurant. Who would have thought that the moment this eldest disciple came into contact with money, he would spend it wantonly? He had also punished him, but he didn't expect that the money used to buy his second disciple's dowry would be used by this eldest disciple to drink with prostitutes, and even compete for the title of courtesan. Throwing away money at one go. At that time, Dongbo Shuiying was truly enraged and he punished him harshly. Thus, Long Tianyun decided to sever all ties with Dongbo Shuiying. He clearly felt that his wings had hardened and he was strong enough so he would be able to do well outside. You are still too soft-hearted, Palace Lord Qin said. However, I can foresee that without your care, this kind of ungrateful person will still suffer greatly in the future. When he was young, I could take care of him. But now he can do whatever he wants, Dongbo Shuiying said. Palace Lord Qin nodded slightly. He finally understood. Dongbo Shuiying did things according to his heart. He felt that he should save people when he needed to, and that he should end things when they were fated to. He had his own principles in mind. Soon, the three of them entered a living room and sat cross-legged. There were exquisite side dishes, fruits, pastries, and fine wine on the table in front of them. I came here today for a very important matter, Palace Lord Qin said as soon as he sat down. Oh. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu were both surprised. One of them was a saint-ranked transcendent sorcerer, while the other was currently poisoned. What important matter could he have with them? It's about Crimson Rock Mountain, Palace Lord Qin said. Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed. He couldn't help but ask, should Jing Qiu avoid it? Ordinary demigods of the Xia people did not have the right to know about Crimson Rock Mountain. You will have to tell her about this matter eventually, so there is no need to avoid it, Palace Lord Qin said. Crimson Rock Mountain? Jing Qiu listened curiously from the side. Where is this? I have never heard of a special place called Crimson Rock Mountain. Palace Lord Qin smiled. Crimson Rock Mountain is an extremely special place. It is located 100,000 kilometers underground in the Xia people's world. 100,000 kilometers underground? Jing Qiu was shocked. 300 kilometers underground would begin to be obstructed by formless laws. The deeper one went, the greater the obstruction from the laws of the material mortal world. Therefore, even demigods of the Xia people would find it extremely difficult to reach a depth of 100,000 kilometers. For a place called Crimson Rock Mountain, to be so deep. Jingqiu realized that things were not normal. Snow Eagle, you should know that ever since Crimson Rock Mountain descended from the deity realm and fell into our Xia people's world, several powerful existences from the deity realm sent teams of demigods into our Xia people's world, Palace Lord Qin said. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Jingqiu's heart was in her throat. Sending demigods in? Demigod transcendence usually had to rely on the temporal temple to be sent in, and the price of transportation was extremely terrifying. Therefore, other than the otherworldly visitors who came through the spatial cracks by chance, the price of every demigod who came through the transportation of the temporal temple was extremely shocking. There was no need to even mention a team of demigods. Crimson Rock Mountain is too dangerous and there is a slim chance of survival, Palace Lord Qin said. Back then too many foreign demigods died in Crimson Rock Mountain. Therefore in the past million years, the Xia people's world has been relatively peaceful. Occasionally there would be a team. But now it's different, Palace Lord Qin said solemnly. Dongbo Shuang furrowed his brows as he listened. The sorcerer god and the great demon god's plan should be known by some powerful existences from the deity realm and the dark abyss. Therefore recently there have been many visitors from other worlds, all of whom were sent by the temporal temple. Moreover, I heard that every visitor brought a deity weapon with them. Palace Lord Qin took a deep breath. Clearly this time the powerful existences from the deity realm and the dark abyss are going to fight for real. Bring deity weapons? Dongbo Shuang was shocked. The price of sending peak demigods in was very high, and the price of sending deity weapons down was even higher. These visitors from another world all brought divine artifacts with them? This was crazy. A team from the Temple of the Earth God has already arrived in the Xia people's world. Palace Lord Qin said, I've already gone to meet them and asked for their help. I've asked them to bring you to Crimson Rock Mountain. Me to Crimson Rock Mountain? Dongbo Shuang was puzzled. Snow Eagle, you've been afflicted with the 6 ghost resentment voodoo poison for over 100 years. I'm afraid that the effects of the antidote are very low. You've been suffering every single moment of the day, right? Palace Lord Qin said, can you endure such days? I'm fine. I've just drunk the antidote so I feel better. Dongbo Shuang said. If the antidote is useless and you can't even control your body due to the pain, how are you going to fight? Palace Lord Qin frowned. You can still control your body and you can still fight. Therefore you can still go to Crimson Rock Mountain to fight. If this drags on, I'm afraid you won't even have the chance to fight in the future. If there's a place that can save you, I can only think of Crimson Rock Mountain. Chapter 281. Snow Eagle, you should know about the mysteries of Crimson Rock Mountain. It is all-encompassing, and even powerful existences in the deity world and abyss desire treasures. Why had the sorcerer god and the great demon god spared no expense for Crimson Rock Mountain? Now, the powerful deities of the divine realm and abyss have paid a huge price to send teams of half-deities with divine weapons to descend upon the Crimson Rock Mountain. Palace Head Qin advised, back then when Ancestor Black Wind entered, you saw the treasures he obtained. Dongbo Shuang nodded. The treasures that Ancestor Black Wind obtained alone were already shocking enough. There were a total of 7 deity world soldiers, and 3 of them were at the peak of the demigod realm. Unfortunately, one of them, the Gold Man, had been captured by the Spider Queen during the battle back then and escaped with her. Even now he had not been rescued. Although Dongbo Shuang had teamed up with the demigods of the Xia people to explore the oceanic forest world, it was a pity that the oceanic forest world was impregnable. Even if they were to explore the mirage, they would not be able to find anything. Curing the 6 ghosts resentment voodoo poison is nothing on Crimson Rock Mountain. Palace Lord Qin said. The only problem is that Crimson Rock Mountain is very dangerous. It's dangerous. Even an era suppressor would have a slim chance of surviving, Eastern European Snow Eagle said. In the history of the Xia people, there are very few who can come out alive after entering alone. Sai Chao-Ching also didn't come out after entering. Palace Lord Qin shook his head and sighed. Dongbo Shuang felt a slight pain in his heart. Old Chao, on the day of his wedding he had bid farewell to him and then entered Crimson Rock Mountain. He had yet to come out. One had to know that if Chao-Ching had lived until now, he would have been more than 3,000 years old. However, the maximum lifespan of a demigod was only 3,000 years. Chao-Ching's combat aura doppelganger stayed in the outside world for nearly a year before it finally dissipated because it ran out of combat aura, Palace Lord Qin said. At least he didn't die during the year he was in there. As for now, although more than 100 years have passed, he might have already become a god in Crimson Rock Mountain. Dongbu Shuang nodded his head lightly. This was just a casual remark. After all, how difficult was it to become a god? They all knew that the possibility of Chao Qing still being alive was extremely low. After Vice Faction Head Chao condensed his true deity heart, his strength is close to Mountain Lord He's, and he's also very experienced. Yet he still hasn't come out. You said that even an era suppressor has a slim chance of surviving. What should we do? Jing Qiu was getting anxious. Suppressing an era? None of the Xia people could be considered an era suppressor. Therefore, I went to pay a visit to the team from the Terrene Shrine. Palace Lord Qin said, the Terrene Shrine has sent a team of demigods. There are a total of 3 experts in this demigod team, and all of them have unfathomable powers. The weakest one has the power to suppress an era, while the strongest leader is even more impressive. When I was chatting with them, I could sense that the other 2 did not dare to disobey their leader. Shuang and Jing Qiu were both startled upon hearing this. 3 experts, even the weakest one had the power to suppress an era? In the end, we are only in the mortal world, while this team of demigods is a team of true elites chosen by the Terrene Shrine. Palace Lord Qin said, the sorcerer god and the great demon god's plan has caused some of the strongest existences in the deity world and abyss to make a final gamble. Naturally, the team they sent will be sufficiently powerful. At the very least, I estimate that this team will be able to easily deal with some of the dangers ahead of Crimson Rock Mountain. Snow Eagle, as long as you follow them, you won't have to exert much effort. I believe that you will be able to reap great rewards. Perhaps you will even be able to cure the 6 ghosts' resentment. After that, you will be able to find an opportunity to return. It will be much easier to travel with a strong team. It will be too difficult to rely on myself, Palace Lord Qin said. Are they willing to bring Snow Eagle along? Jing Qiu asked. Palace Lord, I heard you say that Crimson Rock Mountain is so dangerous. This team from the Terrene Shrine only has 3 experts. I'm afraid that their teamwork will be very good. Are they willing to bring one person along? Having more people wasn't always better. Sometimes, a bad teammate would be a burden to others. This is also a troublesome point. Palace Lord Qin said, but first, the Terrene Shrine owes Snow Eagle a favor for breaching the demonic faction headquarters. Second, if this team from the Terrene Shrine wants to obtain information about Crimson Rock Mountain from the Xia people, they will have to bring Snow Eagle along. Otherwise, the information that we Xia people have gathered about Crimson Rock Mountain will not be given to them. Because of these 2 factors, they will also let Snow Eagle meet them. After confirming that Snow Eagle will not be a burden, they will bring him along. I feel that with the true meaning and profound mysteries of Snow Eagle, it shouldn't be difficult for him to not be a burden. Dongbu Shuang looked at Jing Qiu, who was beside him, with some hesitation. He was prepared to accompany Jing Qiu, but if he were to go, it would be fine if he succeeded, but if he failed, he would die in Crimson Rock Mountain. Snow Eagle, you still have a chance. But if you delay any longer, the effects of the medicine will worsen. Without such a strong team to accompany you, you won't even have a chance. Palace Lord Qin said anxiously. If you retreat, only death awaits you. But if you take the risk and succeed, you will benefit immeasurably. With your talent, you might even become a god in the future, Palace Lord Qin advised. He strongly hoped that Dongbu Shuang would take the risk. If he didn't, only death awaited him. The most dazzling genius in the history of the Xia people shouldn't die like this. Snow Eagle, go on. Jing Qiu looked at Dongbu Shuang and smiled. I know you can't bear to part with me, but we've been together for so many years and I'm already satisfied. Go on, if you succeed we can be together for a longer time. You won't have to suffer the pain of the voodoo poison day and night, and we can have a child that belongs to us. Dongbu Shuang nodded slightly. A child. Due to the hexing poison in their bodies, it was impossible for the 2 of them to have children. Over the past few years, Shuang had often taken in children to teach him his spear techniques. He could also feel that Jing Qiu, in her heart, wanted to have a child with the 2 of them. All right. Dongbu Shuang's eyes lit up. I, Dongbu Shuang, will give it my all. Once again he picked up his spear and started battling. This time it was for the sake of his life and also for the sake of his loved ones. Haha, that's how it should be. Palace Lord Qin laughed. Youngsters should be filled with fighting spirit. Snow Eagle, I believe that you will definitely be able to come out of Crimson Rock Mountain alive. At that time you will be different. I'm also looking forward to that day. Dongbu Shuang nodded, his eyes burning with passion. Since he had decided, then he would give it his all. Dongbu Shuang didn't have any worries. He had already made arrangements for his family. Other than Jing Qiu, Only Qingshi had become a transcendent by himself. Speaking of which, when Dongbo Shuiying and Jingqiu got married, Qingshi and Dai got married soon after. Previously he had been stuck at the legend rank, but on the second day of his wedding, Qingshi actually broke through and became a transcendent. Qingshi already had a bunch of children and grandchildren. His parents were very happy about this. As for his parents and Uncle Zong, they all relied on the transcendent seven-petaled flower to become a pseudo-transcendent. As for Uncle Tong, that boorish lion man, because he couldn't become a legend ranker, Dongbo Shuiying couldn't do anything about it. In the end he collapsed and died. Before he died, Dongbo Shuiying also went to visit him. Because Uncle Tong consumed a lot of elixirs, he lived to the age of 200 before dying of old age. This boorish lion man was very happy before he died, because he had a large group of children and grandchildren by his side. A large group of lion men of different ages surrounded his bedside. Dongbo Shuiying could feel Uncle Tong's happiness. That day, Dongbo Shuiying accompanied him by his side until Uncle Tong closed his eyes. When Uncle Tong died, he didn't seem to have changed much from when he was young. The only difference was that there were more wrinkles on his face, and his originally vibrant yellow hair had become a withered yellow. On the second day of Palace Lord Chen's visit, Dongbo Shuiying set off alone towards the Temple of the Earth God's headquarters in the Xia people's world. Chapter 282. While Dongbo Shuiying was heading towards the headquarters of the Terrene Temple in the Xia people's world, in another location, the Maishan master was living in seclusion in an island county city. This was a simple courtyard. Within the courtyard, a lonely old man was pouring fruit wine. Beside the table were two other people. One of them was a black-robed man. His eyes were filled with malice and madness. The other was a beautiful white-robed young lady. Both of them had a look of excitement on their faces. "Third brother, how long has it been? We are finally reunited." The black-robed man said emotionally, "Ever since you broke free from the temporal temple and came to the Xia people's world, we have always wanted to see you. However, you should know that as a reincarnator of the temporal temple, we have no choice. If we really wanted to come to this world, the price would be too high. Fortunately, we have to go through another life and death adventure." "Brother Martial Emperor, you are so handsome. Why do you always look like an old man?" The white-robed young lady said, "You should change back to your original appearance." "That's right. As a mighty martial emperor, how can you always look so lethargic?" The black-robed man shook his head. "Martial Emperor is dead. I'm just a lone traveler in Maishan." The lonely old man smiled. "Today I call myself the Maishan Master." Maishan. You really can't forget Maishan and Big Sister." The black-robed man shook his head. "Forget? Why would I forget? The days in Maishan were the happiest days of my life. Although they were short, they were enough. However, the restrictions of the temporal temple left us with no choice." The lonely old man's eyes were filled with hatred. After so many life and death experiences, Sister Ping still died. Not only was her fate controlled, even her soul was controlled by the temporal temple. How could I accept that? I had to break free at all costs. The Crimson Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world was left behind by a powerful existence from the deity world. If I can find some opportunities there, I will have a chance of reviving Sister Ping. "You still want to revive Big Sister?" The two companions beside him were stunned. "Do you think that Sister Ping is completely dead?" The lonely old man laughed coldly. "No. Although Sister Ping did not pass the 3 punishment hell missions, the temporal temple only took her away. But in reality, the temporal temple had only taken Sister Ping's soul away, and she was still under its control. If the temporal temple didn't squeeze out all of our potential, how could they let us die so easily?" "Sigh, we've already guessed it." The black-robed man shook his head. "But we don't have the courage to risk everything like you, just for a sliver of hope to escape." Once he agreed and signed the contract, how difficult would it be to regain his freedom? Only by advancing courageously and becoming a deity, or even a great world deity, will we be able to regain our freedom. "That's right, advance bravely," the white-clothed girl also said. "Second brother, little sister, since I have accepted the invitation of that world deity from the temporal temple, I will naturally do my best. I will do my best to help him get what he wants." The lonely old man said, "The two of you will follow me when the time comes. Right, it's been many years since we last met. How has your strength improved?" The higher one's strength is, the harder it will be to improve. The effects of life and death missions will also become weaker. Right now, our strength is just barely approaching the level you were at when you left, Big Brother Martial Emperor, said the young woman in white. Not bad. However, Crimson Rock Mountain is fraught with dangers, more dangerous and terrifying than any of your previous missions. Therefore you must follow me. The Maishan Master's eyes shone with sharpness. And this time no one can stand in my way. I will kill anyone who blocks my path. A terrifying killing intent began to spread out. The black-robed male and white-clothed girl's eyes were filled with excitement and anticipation. This was their former captain, the martial monarch whose fame had spread far and wide. Apart from the legends, the heaven-defying existences who had grasped hold of a Grade 1 true meaning, those who had grasped hold of a Grade 1 true meaning would never risk their lives in Crimson Rock Mountain. The value of a Grade 1 true meaning transcendent was not much lower than that of Crimson Rock Mountain. Of the Temporal Temple's reincarnators who had grasped hold of a Grade 2 true meaning, there were some who were weaker, and some who were extremely terrifying. Some even had the demeanor of a Grade 1 true meaning transcendent. The Temporal Temple would also give them some special privileges. But in reality they were just one step short. No matter how many Grade 2 true meanings they grasped, they would never be able to compare to a Grade 1 true meaning. But this martial emperor was one of the most dazzling reincarnators who had grasped hold of a Grade 2 true meaning. In the past, he had even done something astonishing. He had actually taken the initiative to accept 3 hell-rank missions. He had truly transcended. After breaking free from the Temporal Temple's restrictions, he regained his freedom and became a legend. When he left, he had requested for the Temporal Temple to place him in the Xia people's world. He had been waiting here, silently accumulating his fighting spirit. He was waiting. Waiting for his strength to reach a certain level. Waiting for everything to fall into place, then he would charge into Crimson Rock Mountain. Unexpectedly, a higher-up of the Temporal Temple had asked for his help. Furthermore, the higher-up had paid a huge price and given him many treasures. The Maishan Master naturally nodded in agreement. The 2 who came to help him were his 2 companions who had gone through life and death together. Of the 9 companions he had, only the 3 of them were left alive. In the vast and continuous dark yellow palace, there were as many experts as the clouds. There were also groups of Temporal Temple guards, many of whom were pseudo-transcendents. They were originally legend rankers who chose to transcend. Even though there was a slim chance of survival, after becoming a pseudo-transcendent, they would still have to serve the Temporal Temple for many years to compensate for their efforts. Only after that would they regain their freedom. Who? A crack appeared high up in the sky, and a white-robed youth walked out from it. His face was still rather pale. With a single step, he arrived at the entrance of the majestic dark yellow palace. Lord Dongbo Shuiying. The guards at the entrance did not dare to be negligent. Anyone who could tear through space and rush over was definitely not an ordinary person. After calculating the top transcendence of the Xia people's memories, they realized that this white-robed youth looked exactly the same as the Dongbo Shuiying they knew of. The only difference was his complexion. In the pictures they had seen, he was dressed in black, revealing his sharpness. Dongbo Shuiying has come to pay a visit. You just need to pass on the message. Dongbo Shuiying said. Yes. Lord Dongbo Shuiying, please wait a moment. The guards immediately replied. In a garden deep within the temple of the Earth God, 3 people were present. One of them had a majestic build, fiery red hair, and a pair of fiery red eyes. His entire body was emitting a terrifying tyrannical aura, as though he was a volcano. He was currently lying on a chair, holding a wine flask in his hand as he poured wine into his mouth. At the same time he was muttering, "The mortal world is indeed the mortal world. Even the wine is ordinary. The mortal world is a material world. Countless deities are fighting for the faith of the material world. You cannot underestimate it." A tall, skinny man dressed in thick robes was sitting cross-legged in a corner as he casually replied. Inside the pavilion, a young man in golden armor was sitting alone, eating all sorts of pastries and food. "Young master," that majestic red-haired man shouted. "I heard that there will be a team of demigods from the Dark Abyss this time. There will also be 2 or 3 teams from the Temporal Temple who are struggling with their lives. There will also be a team of demigods from our deity world. I'm afraid it will be very interesting." It is indeed interesting. I've long heard that the reincarnators of the Temporal Temple are very interesting. I really want to see how powerful they are. After all, we fought our way to first place in the competition of our starfield. The expert dressed in thick robes said excitedly. It's fine if they don't come to cause trouble. If they dare to fight with us, we'll just kill them." The golden-armored youth who was eating the pastries said coldly. The golden-armored youth suddenly looked towards the sky. That person from the Xia people's world called Dongbo Shuang has arrived. Dongbo Shuang? That brat's talent is very high. He has grasped hold of two true meanings in less than 100 years. One of them is said to be the true meaning of shadow or the true meaning of mirage, the muscular red-haired man said. It's a pity that he's only at the stage 1 realm. His combat power is simply too weak. Him moving together with us is simply a huge burden. 100 years have passed. This Dongbo Shui Ying's combat power should have increased by quite a bit, the tall, skinny man said. Let's wait and see. This Xia people's intelligence regarding Crimson Rock Mountain is quite rich. It'll be best if we can get our hands on it, the golden-armored youth said. But if he's really a burden, we'd rather not get our hands on that intelligence than to let him live. So, under the guidance of the guards, Dongbo Shuang arrived at the garden. He saw the 3 demigods sent by the temple of the earth god from the deity world. Dongbo Shuang greets the 3 of you, Dongbo Shuang said. Chapter 283. Dongbo Shuang looked at the 3 people in front of him. Before coming here, Palace Lord Chen had naturally sent him information on these 3. These 3 were said to be a team of demigods dispatched by the temple of the earth god from the deity world. The sturdy red-haired man lying on the chair was probably the weakest of the 3. His name was Bobo. The tall and skinny man wrapped in robes beside him was called Bahan. As for the golden-armored young man sitting in the pavilion eating pastries, he was the leader of this team. He was also the strongest existence and his name was Wu Mahai. A team of demigods from the deity world. Dongbo Shuang could feel an invisible pressure just by looking at the 3 people in front of him, especially that Wu Mahai. Despite having the appearance of a young man, his entire aura was dark and filled with a frightening intent of destruction. It was as if anyone who dared approach him would be torn to shreds. He seemed to represent the ultimate darkness and destruction of all laws of profound mysteries around him. Even the weakest has the strength of an era suppressor. Just how strong is this golden-armored young man Wu Mahai? Dongbo Shuang sighed inwardly. He's indeed worthy of being a true elite. You're Dongbo Shuang? Suddenly a casual voice rang out. The sturdy red-eyed man Bo sat up straight with a flask of wine in his hand. Yes. Dongbo Shuang nodded. I've heard that you're the transcendent with the highest talent in the history of your Xia people's world, having grasped hold of two true meanings. The sturdy man Bo asked. One of them seems to be the true meaning of shadow or the true meaning of mirage. I wonder which one it is? Dongbo Shuang was startled. He smiled. The true meaning of mirage. Palace Lord Qin and the others knew that he had grasped hold of the true meaning of mirage, just that he did not publicize it. In truth, whether he publicized it or not did not make much of a difference. This was because the demonic faction and Sorcerer Palace had guessed that Dongbo Shuang had comprehended either the true meaning of shadow or the true meaning of mirage. These 2 true meanings were extremely terrifying and specialized in assassination. The true meaning of mirage was relatively weaker in terms of attack power, but it could control countless illusory images and even illusion clones. Therefore, in terms of assisting in assassination, the true meaning of mirage was more proficient. Amazing to be able to grasp the true meaning of mirage. The muscular man Bo sighed in admiration. The tall and skinny man wrapped in robes and the golden-armored youth also looked at Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang stood there with a smile. Since he was prepared to join, he naturally had to show some sincerity. It's a pity that your cultivation time is too short, and you've even been poisoned by the 6 ghosts' resentment. Bo continued, if you were in the deity world with your talent, there would probably be some deities willing to help you. But in the mortal world there's no way. Oh, only the temporal temple can easily traverse the countless worlds. To them, saving you would be relatively easy. However, the temporal temple would always take the initiative to capture or invite you. Begging is not something you can do. Dongbo Shuang did not say much. The temporal temple? They had invited him once in the past. Now that these demigod teams were sent down by the temporal temple would definitely know that he had been poisoned by the 6 ghosts' resentment. They would also understand the torment he had suffered all these years. But, they did not invite him again. Was it because he had rejected them previously? Was it because they wanted to appear when he was in despair and bring up harsh conditions? Regardless of the reason, the fact that they did not invite him again was the truth. Actually, even if they did invite him, Dongbo Shuang would still bring up many conditions. He was very clear on how terrifying the temporal temple's restrictions were. If he allowed himself to be manipulated by them, he would not be able to escape. Even if his fleshly body was destroyed, his soul would still be controlled by them to carry out missions. Such a way of living? This was something that Dongbo Shuang could not accept. Bo, there's no need to say such things. The tall, skinny man Bahan, who was wrapped in a robe, looked at Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang, your Xia People's Palace Lord Chen has already told us your purpose for coming here. But you should also know that this trip to the Crimson Rock Mountain is a gamble with our lives. Thus we cannot afford any accidents. Understood. Dongbo Shuang nodded. To be honest, the difference in strength between us and you is too great. The tall, skinny man continued, however, since you have grasped the true meaning of mirage, we can consider it. Yes, consider it. The majestic Bo casually picked up a green fruit from the plate beside him. See this? I'll leave this fruit right here. As he spoke, he extended his hand and placed the green fruit on a rock in front of him. Since you were able to take this fruit in front of me, you have the qualifications to move with us, albeit barely. If you can't take it, then there's nothing we can do. You can go do whatever you want. We can't possibly bring a little fellow like you along. A hint of excitement could be seen in Bo's red eyes. Dongbo Shuang, are you ready? Dongbo Shuang understood. The test had come. This was the test that the team from the Temple of the Earth God had for him. If he couldn't pass, then he could only scram. I'm ready. Dongbo Shuang nodded. When I say begin, you can use all your methods. Bo smiled. Don't worry. I won't touch the fruit at all. I'll only stop you. As long as you can take the fruit away despite my obstruction, you'll have succeeded. The tall, skinny man who was wrapped in a robe narrowed his eyes as he watched with interest. The golden-armored youth, Wu Mahai, who was eating some pastries, also looked at Dongbo Shuang. Begin. Bo grinned. As soon as he finished speaking, a visible ray of light shot out from Bo's fiery red eyes, enveloping the surrounding void. At the same time, Bo's aura began to rise, and his entire body seemed like a huge fireball. That terrifying pressure and undulation caused even Dongbo Shuang to be slightly shocked. This pressure and undulation had already surpassed that of faction head Si Kong Yang and Mountain Lord He. In his memories, only the sorcerer god Saber had a pressure that surpassed his. Even the weakest one had the strength of an era suppressor. This Bo was indeed worthy of being an era suppressor. I've long heard of the true meaning of mirage, but I've never seen it before. Let's see how good it is. The tall, skinny man Bahan stared at Bo. Come. Let me see your strength. Bo's aura rose. His surroundings were shrouded in red light. Clearly he was scanning the entire area with his guard up. Careful. The golden-armored youth, Wu Mahai, suddenly frowned and shouted. Man? Whether it was Bo, whose body was like a blazing fireball, or the tall, skinny man, both stared at the stone in shock. The fruit that was originally placed on the stone had disappeared. That's right, it had disappeared into thin air without any warning. Dongbo Shuang, on the other hand, stood there without moving. He can actually sense it. Dongbo Shuang glanced at the golden-armored youth. His attack just now could be said to be unfathomable. That Bo, whose aura was overflowing with the heavens, and that tall, skinny man, who was using all his methods to scan the surroundings, were extremely vigilant. At the very least, they were not able to sense him at the instant he made his move. But that golden-armored youth, Wu Mahai, Dongbo Shuang could feel a terrifying, dark and destructive undulation coming into contact with his attack. Of course he did not stop it. After all, this was a test, and it was Bo who was going to stop him. If Wu Mahai were to interfere, it would be too difficult to stop him. How is this possible? This. Bo's eyes were wide open. The terrifying temperature of his body was rising, and the chair he was sitting on was instantly incinerated into nothingness. Too fast. The tall, skinny man did not dare to believe it. The true meaning of mirage is indeed worthy of its name. The golden-armored youth, Wu Mahai, laughed and praised. It is indeed worthy of being the most terrifying grade 2 true meaning in terms of assassination. The true body doesn't even need to act, and the mirage avatar can act. Furthermore, your mirage avatar can change between real and illusory without leaving any traces. Only at the moment of its activation can we sense the undulation. Your true meaning of mirage should have reached the stage 2 realm, though not yet. If it had reached the stage 3 realm, other demigods who have grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning would not be able to discover it. Asterisk. Chapter 284. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Admirable. Just as young Master Wu Mahai predicted, my true meaning of mirage is indeed at the stage 2 realm. His true meaning of mirage had reached the peak of the stage 2 realm. He originally thought that not many demigods would be able to discover his movements, but it was clear that there were experts amongst experts. An era suppressor might not be able to discover him, but the stronger leader Wu Mahai did. You were poisoned by the 6 ghosts' resentment, yet your true meaning of mirage reached the stage 2 realm in 100 years? Bobo did not dare believe it. This was too much of a slap to his face. The true meaning of mirage was indeed famous, but he felt that with his grade 3 deity heart, he should have been able to block the first stage realm of the true meaning of mirage. Who would have thought that Shuang would be so much stronger than he had expected? The golden-armored youth, Wu Mahai, said, "Unfortunately, you were poisoned by the voodoo poison and have no transcendent chi left in your body. You cannot step into the demigod realm or use deity weapons. Although your true meaning of mirage is mysterious, your attacks are too weak. When the time comes, even if you meet some terrifying enemies in Crimson Rock Mountain, you will not be able to harm them." Yes. Bobo immediately nodded. Your movements in the mirage are quite mysterious. You can be useful as a scout, but your attacks are still too weak. Dongbo Shuang listened without saying a word. If we bring you to Crimson Rock Mountain, you will be of little help to us, but we will have to bear the risk. This time we are fully prepared, and we have been arranged by the powerful existences of the deity world to risk our lives. The lanky man Bahan said, "There are many things in this world that are fair. It is not impossible for us to bring you there, but you need to show enough sincerity." "Oh, what do I need to pay?" Dongbo Shuang asked. "Xia people have complete information on Crimson Rock Mountain. Of course this is the easiest. Palace Lord Qin has already promised that as long as you follow us, he will definitely give it to us. Actually, before we came here we already had enough intelligence. It doesn't matter if you Xia people have more or less intelligence." The tall and skinny man Bahan narrowed his eyes. "We need you to be our team spy. We asked you to scout ahead, so you have to scout ahead. Don't be afraid to advance. To us, this is the only thing you can do." Dongbo Shuang furrowed his brows. "Spy? You want me to go, so I have to go? Gentlemen, if I knew that it was dangerous ahead, would I still rush forward? Isn't that courting death? There's no need to get too close to investigate. All we need to do is investigate," said Bahan with a smile. "If you don't dare to investigate, what's the use of having you around?" Bobo snorted coldly. Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed slightly. This Bobo was indeed domineering. Crimson Rock Mountain was left behind by an almighty being from the deity realm. You should have obtained information about Crimson Rock Mountain and should know that there is very little that you need to investigate. The golden-armored youth said, "We won't be too demanding, but you have to pay a price. After all, we've been attacking along the way." "All right." Dongbo Shuang nodded. "I'll do my best." He definitely wouldn't throw his life away. "One last request," the golden-armored youth said with a smile. "We need 10 deity-grade scrolls." "What?" Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed, and his eyes burned with fury. "Gentlemen, aren't you going overboard? 10 deity-grade scrolls. We must take them." The red-haired man Bobo said coldly, "This is our final request. If you take them out, we'll definitely bring you into Crimson Rock Mountain. If you don't, then there's nothing we can do." The dagger was revealed. Only then did Shuang regain his senses. He had originally thought that the team from the Temple of the Earth God would be willing to bring him along after seeing that he had the true meaning of mirage and would not be a burden to them, and that he would help them out as a scout, since he had provided them with information on Crimson Rock Mountain. However, he had been too optimistic. Their true goal was the deity-grade scrolls. "Impossible," Dongbo Shuiying said in a low voice. "Furthermore, I don't even have a single deity-grade scroll." "You don't, but the Xia people do." The tall, skinny man Bahan, who was wrapped in thick robes, said softly, "Although very few of you Xia people have ascended to godhood, there's still a large number of them throughout history. After becoming godhood, their sorcerers should have refined some deity-grade scrolls, right? To the Xia people, taking out 10 deity-grade scrolls shouldn't be a difficult task. I heard that the Xia people paid a hefty price to save you. If you take out 10 more deity-grade scrolls," Dongbo Shuiying said angrily, "Impossible. Don't even think about it." The 3 demigods from the deity realm exchanged glances. Actually, their ultimate goal was the deity-grade scrolls. The reason why they didn't mention this to the Palace Lord Qin was because they didn't want to scare the Palace Lord Qin. Hence, they decided to keep him in suspense before enticing Dongbo Shuiying to bring them out. According to their judgment, Dongbo Shuiying was still very important to the Xia people. Furthermore, he had contributed greatly to the deity-grade scrolls. It shouldn't be difficult for him to obtain a few deity-grade scrolls. One must know, the price of transporting deity-grade scrolls from the deity realm to the temporal temple was too terrifying. However, the Xia people were different. Every generation of Xia people who ascended to godhood could stay for 10,000 years before entering the deity realm. During this period of time, they would also contribute a lot to the Xia people. For example, refining deity-grade scrolls. Because they didn't need to transport them to the temporal temple, they could directly refine them in their hometowns. Of course, it wasn't easy to refine every single deity-grade scroll. In order to deal with the calamities of the past, the Xia people had used a lot of them. To the Xia people, every single scroll was their foundation. How about this? 10 might be too much. How about 5? The golden-armored youth Wu Mahai said, 5 deity-grade scrolls. I heard that the Xia people used quite a few deity-grade scrolls to break through the 12 arrays set up by the beast race to save you. 5 scrolls? To the Xia people this is definitely a relatively easy amount to take out. 5 no less. Bo added, if you take them out we'll be comrades. If you can't you can go back. Dongbo Shuiying forcefully suppressed his anger. As a person who was about to die, going to the Crimson Rock Mountain was a gamble for a chance of survival. Now that the Xia people were facing the threat of the great demon god and the sorcerer god, how could he ask the Xia people for 5 deity-grade scrolls? Not to mention 5, he couldn't even take 1. Farewell. Dongbo Shuiying said, then turned to leave. The expressions of Wu Mahai, Bahan, and Bo changed slightly. Dongbo Shuiying, no team would accept you. You're already lucky that we're willing to accept you. Wu Mahai said coldly. Then I'll go in alone. Dongbo Shuiying said. With just you? With Bo's strength, if he went in alone he would most likely die. As for you? You'll definitely die. There's no chance of survival. Wu Mahai sneered, if you go you'll be throwing your life away. I advise you to think this through. When you face death in the Crimson Rock Mountain, no one will be able to save you. It'll be too late for regrets. Dongbo Shuiying walked out and smiled, thank you young master Wu Mahai for your concern. Brat, your life isn't even worth 5 deity-grade scrolls? The lanky man Bahan said loudly, as long as you agree we'll definitely protect you. Ha, a dying man is worth 5 deity-grade scrolls? You've overestimated me. Dongbo's figure had already walked out of the garden gate and disappeared from the sight of the 3 demigods. The golden-armored youth Wu Mahai sat down in the pavilion, picked up a pastry and put it in his mouth, frowning. I didn't expect this Dongbo Shuiying to be so unafraid of death. The moment I mentioned the deity-grade scrolls, he immediately rejected it. There wasn't even room for negotiation. To the Xia people, a peerless transcendent like him would be willing to take out 3 to 5 scrolls. However, this brat Dongbo Shuiying didn't cooperate at all. What a waste. Bo sat down on a rock beside him and said angrily, forget it, let this brat die. The lanky man Bahan said, what's the point of having the true meaning of mirage? In Crimson Rock Mountain, there are very few places that need to be explored. The main thing is to fight along the way. His strength is much weaker than ours. And let's get ready quietly. Don't bother about him, Wu Mahai said. They actually didn't think much of Dongbo Shuiying's strength. Previously, when they let Dongbo Shuiying take the fruit, they wanted to intimidate Dongbo Shuiying and force him to take it away. Who knew that Dongbo Shuiying's true meaning of mirage was stronger than they had expected. Even so, they still didn't think much of him. After all, Dongbo Shuiying's attacks were too weak, and he didn't have a divine weapon. He was much weaker than Bo. The only thing they cared about was Dongbo Shuiying's value in the eyes of the Xia people. Thus, they wanted to obtain a few deity-grade scrolls. Unfortunately, they failed. Take care, Lord Dongbo Shuiying. The guards at the entrance of the Terrene Shrine were still very respectful. Dongbo Shuiying walked out of the entrance of the Terrene Shrine and looked at the vast sky outside. He smiled and said, it's fine if I don't go with a team like this. At most, I'll just barge into Crimson Rock Mountain alone. Boom. In an instant he soared into the sky. A spatial tear appeared in the sky and Dongbo Shuiying disappeared into it. Chapter 285. In White River City, the Dongyu restaurant was bustling with activity as usual. Dongbo Shuiying walked into the restaurant. Boss, you went out to paint again? Boss Dongbo seems to be in a good mood. As the regulars greeted Shuang, Shuang smiled and said a few words to them. Soon he arrived at his exclusive seat upstairs and sat down. He ordered a waiter to prepare 2 side dishes and a flask of wine. He ate the side dishes and drank the wine by himself. In just a short moment, Jing Qiu, dressed in a dark blue gown, walked up to the restaurant. Because she had been maintaining a simple spell, the onlookers only felt that Jing Qiu was quite beautiful, but not to the point of being breathtaking. If she really did not conceal it, after Jing Qiu became a transcendent, she would have been reborn. Her looks would be the #1 beauty in the entire Xia people. Ordinary women would not be able to compare to her. If she revealed her looks publicly, she would have caused a huge commotion. Snow Eagle. Jing Qiu sat opposite Dongbo Shuang. Her eyes were filled with anxiety. How about looking for the team from the Temple of the Earth God? What else can I do? Dongbo Shuang laughed helplessly. They didn't take a liking to me. Didn't take a liking to you? Jing Qiu panicked. Since they asked you to go, they should be prepared to bring you there. Why didn't they take a liking to you? From the start, they never took a liking to me. Dongbo Shuang poured a cup of wine. They already knew that my transcendent chi was gone, and I was unable to use my god equipment. They never had any expectations of my strength. When I first arrived, they even tested me. I passed their test perfectly. But what happened in the end? They still wanted God-tier scrolls. God-tier scrolls? Jing Qiu was stunned. That's right. They aren't that kind. Their ultimate goal is the God-tier scrolls. They asked for 10 God-tier scrolls right off the bat and then lowered it to 5. Dongbo Shuang harumphed coldly. What wishful thinking. Jing Qiu and Dongbo Shuang had been together for many years. She was all too familiar with Dongbo Shuang's temper. Jing Qiu was very clear that Dongbo Shuang would never ask for a God-tier scroll, not even one. She could not do it because if she did, it would be worse than death for Dongbo Shuang. Some things could be done. Some things should not be done. Then what should we do? Jing Qiu asked anxiously. Salad. Dongbo Shuang laughed. At the same time, he picked up a piece of meat and brought it to Jing Qiu's mouth. Come, open your mouth. I'm the one who's anxious. You're really? Jing Qiu had no choice but to open her mouth and bite him. There's nothing to be anxious about. If there's really no other choice, I'll go alone. Ancestor Black Wind was able to come out alive that year. I feel that I can come out alive too. Dongbo Shuang said confidently. Suddenly, Palace Lord Qin transmitted a message to him. He had always been concerned about Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang did not hide anything and told him everything. After that, he even reminded Palace Lord Qin, don't give these outsiders God-tier scrolls secretly. If you give them to them, you know my temper. Snow Eagle, you're really... Don't worry. Even if I really wanted to give them 5 God-tier scrolls, I can't make the decision alone. I need the approval of the entire Doyan's Council. Palace Lord Qin transmitted. This was the most crucial moment for the Xia people. They were facing the threat of the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God. Even the ancestors of the Xia people were paying close attention to the movements in their homeland. To use 5 God-tier scrolls, not only did they have to go through the Doyan's Council, they had to let the ancestors of the Xia people know. That's good. Dongbo Shuang smiled. Dongbo Shuang was living a leisurely life in White River City. To him, it would be better if he could follow a team to Crimson Rock Mountain. But if he couldn't, it didn't matter. He was also waiting for the day of departure. According to Palace Lord Qin, there were already 3 teams that had arrived. They were the teams from the Temple of the Earth God, the Bloodshed Tavern, and the team led by the outsider, the Maishan Master, who had arrived in the Xia people's world a long time ago. Spear techniques focus on the foundation. Without a solid foundation, it's impossible to master it well. In the northern courtyard of the mansion behind the tavern, Dongbo Shuang was holding an ordinary spear and practicing his spear techniques. The group of disciples who had come to learn spear techniques, regardless of whether they were young or old, were all practicing seriously. Especially after witnessing Dongbo Shuang's unimaginable methods, these disciples became even more serious. Their gazes towards Dongbo Shuang were filled with fervor and excitement. Dongbo Shuang had also instructed them not to leak this information. Actually, he didn't care whether this information was leaked or not. After all, he was going to leave this place very soon. At that time, Jing Qiu would also leave this tavern. Before leaving, he decided to teach these children a little more. Each and every move of the spear was simple and natural. Experiencing the most basic circulation of energy in the physical world had also helped Dongbo Shuang grasp the profound mysteries of spear techniques. Dongbo Shuang suddenly frowned. Over 8,000 li away from the Dongyu Tavern, within a ravine, there was a huge village. Smoke could be seen rising from the chimneys, and the households of the village were huddled together. This was a huge village with over 1,000 households. A large number of children could be seen running around the village, while the women were washing clothes and preparing meals. The men had just returned from the mountains or the farms. Kids, let's go home. It's almost time for dinner. If you don't go back, I'll spank your buttocks. The men laughed out loud, and the group of children immediately ran far away. At this moment, an ordinary-looking hawker carrying a pole walked to the entrance of the village. His triangular eyes stared coldly at the village. This village is pretty big, and it's said that there are over 6,000 people here. This place is rather remote and is far from the county capital. It's unlikely that the Xia people would discover us. After enduring for half a year, let's eat our fill this time. This hawker was a demon who had transformed into his human form. Their generals had been killed, and only one had managed to escape. They could only rely on themselves to survive. Father, father, the good food is here. Come quickly, come quickly. A child at the entrance of the village shouted excitedly as soon as he saw the hawker. How tender! The hawker's eyes glowed red, and his entire body suddenly expanded, turning into an ugly 3-meter-tall, green-scaled demon. Its snake-like tongue stretched out from its mouth, dripping with mucus. The child, who was originally happy, was completely stunned. He was so scared that he couldn't speak. All of you. A violent surge of dark magic rushed out from its body. This green-scaled demon had completely gone mad. It wanted to devour the souls of all the humans in the village as soon as possible. Suddenly, in front of a group of disciples. Spear art, able to unleash and retract at will. Dongbu Shuang raised his body and thrust his spear behind him. With a swing of his spear, the spear shaft straightened, and the spearhead pierced forward. The moment the ugly, tall, green-scaled demon appeared, and the dark magic rushed out. Whoosh! A shadow of a spear appeared out of thin air. The spear was straight, and the spearhead pierced forward, right between the green-scaled demon's eyebrows. The green-scaled demon looked at this scene in shock. Then its body completely shattered like sand, including its sturdy bones and scales as well as its weapons and storage treasures. It was so shattered that it couldn't be seen with the naked eye. The only thing that could be seen was its body crumbling and disappearing into nothingness. The shadow of the long spear that was thrown out also disappeared. Dongyu Restaurant in the northern courtyard of the mansion. Dongbu Shuang raised his body and swung his spear. He then retracted his spear and shook his head. These demons are hiding in every corner of the Xia people's world. If they don't reveal their true forms, there's no way to tell. All of you little brats, practice more. Dongbu Shuang shouted. Yes, master. All of them replied in unison. Dongbu Shuang then sat on a chair at the side. Cold sweat could be seen on his forehead. The pain from the voodoo poison had reached its peak. Snow Eagle, good news, great news. The leader of the Bloodshed Tavern's team has offered to bring you to Crimson Rock Mountain. A message from Palace Lord Qin arrived. I'm a bit stuck. I've only updated 1 chapter today, and I've accumulated to 4 chapters. Star. Chapter 287. Palace Lord Qin, the leader of the Bloodshed Tavern's team, suggested this? You didn't give him any deity-grade scrolls? Dongbu Shuang was also excited by this news. If he could follow the team, he would naturally be willing. After all, these teams were all very powerful. Not only were they all at a high cultivation level, they also had deity-grade scrolls and treasures prepared for the Crimson Rock Mountain. As for him, he really didn't have any treasures. He only had his own strength. He still had to leave his most precious treasures for the Xia people. Moreover, he was alone. Even if he was confident in his own strength, the difficulty of moving alone would probably be 10 times higher. Don't worry. I can't possibly give you deity-grade scrolls. I don't have the authority to do so either. Palace Lord Qin transmitted. This is something that the leader of the Bloodshed Tavern's team suggested. I have to pay him a visit. Dongbu Shuang was very grateful. The headquarters of the Bloodshed Tavern was located in an ordinary county city. It was a bustling, super-large tavern that occupied an area of 1 to 2 miles. Behind this super-large tavern, there were many courtyards. In one of the courtyards, there was a team of demigods from the deity realm. Manor Lord, that Dongbu Shuang is only a saint-tier transcendent. He has also been poisoned by the 6 ghosts' resentment. No matter how strong he is, he probably can't be ranked first in this mortal world. Wouldn't it be a hindrance to bring him into the Crimson Rock Mountain? An old man with a goatee sat at the side and muttered. He was dirty and unkempt. Beside him was the bald, yellow-robed old man who was sitting cross-legged. The bald, yellow-robed old man nodded and said, "An old thief's words make sense. Manor Lord, this time, you have disregarded everything to enter this place. We have all gambled with our lives. We don't need Dongbu Shui Ying's help. However, if he were to affect us, that would be terrible." The choice of companions was very important. This was also the reason why the team from the Terrain Shrine dared to ask for such a high price. A normal team wouldn't be willing to bring someone who would drag them down. If they fell into a trap at a crucial moment, the entire team would be in trouble. An old thief. Uncle Fu, I've also asked around. This Dongbu Shui Ying seems to have grasped the true meaning of mirage or the true meaning of shadow. He won't bring us any trouble, said a green-robed middle-aged man. This middle-aged man had an extraordinary bearing. His aura was completely restrained and he did not give off any pressure. However, he was the leader of this team. The Bloodshed Tavern belonged to one of the three superpowers in the deity world, the Bloodshed God Palace. The higher-ups of the Bloodshed God Palace could easily find many formidable demigods. Being able to choose this team was naturally extraordinary. It won't bring any trouble, but it won't bring any benefits either. In terms of scouting, my true meaning of illusions has already condensed a true deity heart. Isn't it more powerful than that brat's shallow true meaning of mirage? The goateed old man stared. The true meaning of illusions was a grade 3 true meaning, while the true meaning of mirage was a grade 2 true meaning. However, the other party had already condensed a true deity heart, which was extremely frightening. The two of you, that's enough. Stop grumbling. The green-robed middle-aged man said, that Dongbu Shui Ying has already arrived. Let's meet this brat. After all, we'll be comrades in the future and we'll share life and death together. The goateed old man and the bald yellow-robed old man could only feel helpless. They could not change the will of the manor master. Very soon, creak. The door opened. A white-robed young man who looked slightly sickly walked in. Most transcendents would have a healthy complexion. Dongbu Shui Ying, who had been tortured by the hexing poison, naturally had a sickly complexion. Hex poison. The green-robed middle-aged man looked at Shui Ying as he walked in. He thought back to the wife he had married when he was young and had just become a transcendent. His wife had endured the torment of the hex poison for 30 years. She had accompanied him for 30 years before dying. This was a pain he would never be able to forget. The moment he knew of Dongbu Shui Ying's bitter experience, he had made this decision. It wasn't easy for this young man to endure the six ghosts' resentment for 100 years. Dongbu Shui Ying, right? The green-robed middle-aged man smiled. My name is Percy I. From now on we'll be comrades. Greetings, brother Percy I. Dongbu Shui Ying bowed slightly to show his respect. First time meeting, this Percy I naturally released some of his aura. In the world of transcendence, strength was the most powerful. The moment Dongbu Shui Ying sensed the aura released by this Percy I, he could faintly feel the roars of 8 ferocious dragons. Each of the 8 ferocious dragons represented a terrifying will. Some represented destruction, some represented venom, some represented violence. These 8 ferocious dragons were extremely terrifying, but at the end of their terror was boundless vitality. Even though they were clearly 8 ferocious dragons, they were filled with boundless vitality. Perhaps this was the principle of extreme Yin giving birth to Yang, and extreme Yang giving birth to Yin. He is indeed the leader of the team sent by the higher-ups of the Bloodshed God Palace. His strength is unfathomable. Dongbu Shui Ying thought. Within an ordinary county city, countless people were living their lives as usual. You scoundrel. Since you don't wish for me to live, I'll make sure you don't live either. Die. An honest-looking man was currently holding a butcher's knife with a savage expression as he furiously chopped towards a half-naked muscular man who was acting domineeringly. The muscular man glared at him and immediately pulled out a knife from his waist. You're rebelling. The two began fighting on the streets. Strangely, the other people on the streets did not feel any fear. Instead, their eyes turned red. Some started cursing at each other while others started beating each other up. There were even some who directly attacked each other. Haha, beauty, no matter how loud you shout, it's useless. Within a house, a ruffian directly rushed in to grab a woman. The woman was crying out mournfully, my child, my child. Beside her, there was an infant still wrapped in swaddling clothes who had already lost all signs of life. Ah, my child, my child. The woman's voice was mournful. Gradually her eyes turned blood red. Her fingernails dug into the eyes of the ruffian in front of her. Puchi, peel off all of your skin. A fierce-looking man sat there looking at the men and women being hung. Who asked this grandpa to be so happy today? I'll use your skin to make clothes. It'll definitely be nice. Peel, peel, peel. If the subordinates by his side were in the past, they would definitely be terrified. They would definitely be afraid that their master would become so cruel. But at this moment, all of their eyes were red as they laughed mischievously and picked up their knives. Those men and women who were hung were all cursing and cursing furiously. Everyone in this county city seemed to have turned into a demon, revealing the most savage side of human nature. In just a short period of time, the entire county city was covered in blood. The smell of blood permeated the air. More than half of the people in the county city had killed each other in a short period of time. The rest were still in the midst of all sorts of tortures and killings. Many died horrible deaths, and their wails and resentment filled the entire city. The sound is really nice to hear. Ha ha ha. In the middle of the county city, there was a skinny old man with an overflowing savage aura. The skinny old man stood in midair. His fingernails were very long, and he was currently holding onto a strange crystal ball. The crystal ball was already filled with countless vengeful spirits. These vengeful spirits and vengeful spirits were all wailing in agony. What's going on here? Another figure appeared in midair. It was a very cold and silent man. His aura was also cold and dark. It was ghost deity Knight Feng Dong. No matter how cold Feng Dong was normally at this moment, he was stunned. He saw the county city which had tens of millions of people turned into a hell. The smell of blood and resentment filled the air. Buzz. He immediately borrowed the power of heaven and earth to instantly investigate the entire county city. What he saw made him even more furious. 80 to 90% of the people in the county city had died. Some of the deaths were so tragic that he could not bear to see them. The ferocious, crazy, and resentful aura of the dead made Feng Dong's heart even more furious. Who are you? Feng Dong also discovered the skinny old man in the middle of the county city. With a teleportation, he appeared in front of the old man. Feng Dong looked at the skinny old man in anger. He completely understood that all of this was caused by this old man. It's this crystal ball. Feng Dong could faintly sense that the crystal ball was releasing an invisible force that enveloped the entire county city. It was causing the people in the county city to go crazy. After they died, their souls were also attracted by this invisible force and were sucked into the crystal ball. Break for me. Feng Dong's anger reached the sky. He immediately attacked. A long halberd appeared in his hand. The long halberd turned into a black ray of light and instantly pierced towards the crystal ball. How dare you! The skinny old man immediately shouted angrily. Chapter 288. The thin old man grabbed the crystal ball with one hand, and his figure flashed as he dodged Feng Dong's attack. You're pretty fast, huh? Feng Dong was truly enraged. As a transcendent of the Xia people, his duty was to protect the Xia people. Filled with rage, Feng Dong's strength erupted. He transformed into a strange shadow, and his speed was even faster than the old man's. One must know that he was called the Ghost Deity Knight, because he was like a ghost when he fought. Clang, clang, clang. The thin old man held the crystal ball with one hand, using the other to block the halberd's thrusts with great difficulty. Rip! The halberd transformed into a dark shadow, and the thin old man was finally unable to block it with one hand. The halberd pierced through his body. It's useless. The thin old man had just revealed a cold smile when his expression suddenly changed. His pierced chest began to emit chi-chi-chi sounds as his body began to corrode. A spirit body? You're an evil spirit? Feng Dong's expression changed slightly. Unfortunately, you've met me. I'm called the Ghost Deity Knight. Oh. The crystal ball that he held in one hand was immediately stored into his storage treasure. Because it was stored, the effects on the entire county city immediately ceased. The survivors of the county city who had been in a frenzy also regained their clarity of mind. Each and every one of them were completely stunned. No, master. Why is it like this? The survivors of the county city were completely stunned by what they had just done, as well as the hellish scene in front of them. This was a nightmare even more terrifying than their own. Who are you? Why are you collecting so many vengeful spirits? Feng Dong roared angrily as he continued to attack. At this moment, the thin old man was using both his claws to block, but it was still extremely strenuous. He only had the strength of a veteran demigod, while Feng Dong had long since reached the peak of demigod after many years of cultivation. In addition, in terms of techniques, he was superior to the thin old man, and he was able to restrain him. "My master is the great master Nuan Nuan," the thin old man shouted. "You can't kill me." "Nuan Nuan? Oh, which otherworldly guest is it?" Feng Dong roared. Even as he spoke, his hands did not stop moving. The halberd continued to break through the thin old man's defense, stabbing into his body again and again. Chi-chi-chi sounds rang out from the thin old man's body and his body began to fade away. Clearly each of Feng Dong's attacks had wounded him. As evil spirits, normal attacks were ineffective against them. However, Feng Dong's profound mysteries of true meaning could injure it. Suddenly the aura of the frail old man rose. Behind him, a huge illusory image appeared. It was the illusory image of a skull with green eyes. The illusory image of the skull growled, "Xia people, stop. You're Nuan Nuan? Why didn't you stop when you were killing our Xia people?" Feng Dong said coldly, not stopping at all. As the halberd continued to attack, the thin old man's body became even more illusory. "Demigod of the Xia people, are you the ghost deity knight of the black-white deity mountain Feng Dong? Let go of my servant or else you will die," roared the skull. "You dare to wantonly slaughter in the world of the Xia people? There is only one ending for you, death." Feng Dong's halberd was as fast as lightning, and the already weakened old man finally couldn't hold on any longer. With a shrill scream, his entire body dissipated like mist, and a storage treasure that he carried with him also appeared out of thin air. "Damn it!" Accompanied by an unwilling roar, the huge illusory skull also dissipated. Feng Dong grabbed the storage treasure, quickly took out the crystal ball and directly smashed it. Countless vengeful spirits appeared between heaven and earth. Very quickly, the laws of heaven and earth revolved, and they all disappeared without a trace. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. As Feng Dong listened to the cries of the countless vengeful spirits, a trace of sorrow appeared in his eyes. What he hated the most was these foreign races that wantonly slaughtered humans. The experiences of his youth had greatly changed his temperament, and he was now like a ghost god. Feng Dong descended into the prefectural city below. Seeing many people crying and some completely lifeless youths, Feng Dong felt as if he was looking at himself in the past. "Foreign races! Foreign races!" Feng Dong roared. Although he was incomparably furious, he still hurriedly reported the news to the palace Lord Chen. In the courtyard behind the Bloodshed Tavern, Dongbua Shuiying was currently conversing with the three of them. He could sense that the other two were not very close to him, while the leader of the team, Persei, was rather friendly. "How strange. The Manor Lord is infamous, but he's actually so kind to this Dongbua Shuiying. That's rare." "That's right. The Manor Lord is only kind to those close to him." The goateed old man and the bald yellow-robed old man conversed through voice transmissions. After chatting for a while, Dongbua Shuiying prepared to stand up and leave. Suddenly his expression changed. "Snow Eagle, there's a large-scale massacre in our Tranquil Sun province. 3 prefectural cities and a large number of mortals have been massacred. Countless mortals have died miserably. I'm afraid there's more than 100 million dead. Brother Dongbua, in the 19 provinces of our Xia people's world, massacres have occurred in many places. There were even some prefectural cities that originally had transcendents. However, those transcendents lost their minds and did not report it to the higher-ups. In the end they even fell into a coma. The transcendents were not killed. If they were killed, the communication wristband would automatically send a message, and we would know that a massacre had occurred. It was only after Ghost Deity Knight Feng Dong discovered it and reported it to the Infernal Palace that we knew about it." "Snow Eagle?" One message after another came in rapidly. Dongbua Shuiying looked at it in disbelief. He was a little dazed. 100 million? Although the word 100 million sounded simple, it represented countless people. In these 100 years, he had accompanied his wife to travel around the world. Walking amongst the mortals, Dongbua Shuiying had never thought highly of himself. He had always felt that mortals and transcendents were both humans. The only difference was that transcendents were stronger. He was also willing to teach many ordinary children spear arts. He was also very serious in teaching them. Now that he heard about such a large-scale massacre, he was completely stunned. The green-robed middle-aged man, Persei, suddenly frowned. "Dongbua Shuiying, did your Xia people encounter some trouble?" "Yes." Dongbua Shuiying opened his mouth. His voice was slightly hoarse. Persei frowned. He could feel Dongbo Shui Ying's current emotions. You guys have to be careful. Such ruthless methods might be used secretly in the deity world, but they wouldn't be so arrogant. Persei said. Only in the chaotic dark abyss such things are very common. Thus, my guess is that this large-scale massacre should be done by the demigod team from the dark abyss. The demigod team from the dark abyss? Dongbo Shuang looked at Persei. Let me remind you Xia people. Among the teams that descended, I am most wary of the demigod team from the dark abyss. Persei said. They are different from the demigods of the mortal world and the demigods of the deity world. The indigenous life forms of the dark abyss are known as demons. Their innate talents are extremely strong. Their innate talents are comparable to deity weapons. The team that descended this time will definitely not be ordinary demigods. They will definitely be selected from the countless demigods. They will select the most terrifying existence. The massacre in the dark abyss is the most intense. The competition is also the most intense. Furthermore, the innate talents of the demons are extremely strong. Thus, this team of demigods is definitely very strong. Persei said. For them to dare to act so wantonly, I'm afraid that they do not care about you Xia people. You Xia people should really be careful. Thank you brother Persei. Dongbo Shuang said gratefully. I shall not stay here any longer. And when we depart, I will contact you through the communication wristband. Persei said. This communication wristband was given to Persei by the palace Lord Qin. It was the communication wristband of the Xia people. The communication methods that they used from the outside were unable to communicate with the communication wristband of the Xia people. All right. Dongbo Shuang could no longer sit still. After bidding farewell, he hurriedly left. In a majestic city, Dongbo Shuang walked outside the city. He could smell the stench of blood in the villages outside the city. Corpses could be seen everywhere. All of them were dead. Not a single one survived. Such a scene caused Dongbo Shui Ying's heart to turn cold. Damn it, damn it. Dongbo Shuang gritted his teeth. Back then he and his wife had come to this city before. They had eaten many snacks there and even brought some pastries to the children on the streets. But now they were all dead. The entire city was a dead city. Dongbo Shuang walked into the city. Looking at the scene before him, his eyes turned slightly red. He was tortured by the voodoo poison and was getting closer and closer to death. But the more it was like this, the more he loved life. He loved children even more. Maybe it was because he and Jingqiu never had children. Or maybe it was because children represented hope and life. But at this moment, the entire city, the bustling city was dead silent. Countless corpses were strewn all over the place. The stench of blood permeated the air. Dongbo Shuang could not bear to look at this scene. His entire body trembled. In your eyes, are we Xia people really like livestock? Dongbo Shuang clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Chapter 289. Palace Lord Qin, have you found anything? Dongbo Shuang suppressed his anger and asked Palace Lord Qin through telepathy. We can confirm that it's someone from the dark abyss. The master of the demon Feng Dong killed is called Nuan Nuan. Palace Lord Qin replied. We're still investigating, but we haven't found the team from the dark abyss yet. Let me know when you find them, Dongbo Shuang said. Snow Eagle, don't worry. We, the Xia people, will not let them off. Palace Lord Qin transmitted. Also, the leader of the Bloodshed Tavern team warned me to be careful of the team from the dark abyss. Dongbo Shuang immediately relayed Persei's words to Palace Lord Qin. Although he was filled with killing intent, he had to understand the opponent's strength. Soon the two broke off communication. Shuang stood within this deathly silent county city, looking all around him. Currently he was the only living person in the entire county city. Even though it was daytime and the sun was still high up in the sky, when the wind blew over, it sounded like a faint howl of grief. The stench of blood permeated the surroundings, causing Shuang to feel as if he was in the nine hells. He felt a chill in his heart, a chill that seeped into his bones. It's a foreign race from the dark abyss. Dongbo Shui Ying's eyes were filled with killing intent. Even if it was the remaining weak demons, they would not be able to kill too many humans in one go. It had been a long time since there was such a disaster. This kind of thing could not be hidden. Almost all the transcendents of the Xia people soon found out. They were all stunned, then furious. Palace Lord Qin had ordered the demigods of the Xia people to investigate, and other transcendents were not allowed to participate. The enemy was too strong. Ordinary transcendents would only be sending themselves to death if they tried. Damn it, Foreign race, foreign race. This is our homeland, the world of the Xia people. The transcendents of the Xia people were all furious and heartbroken. These strange races had actually come to their homeland and treated their own people as if they were slaughtering livestock. How could he tolerate this? On the summit of a high mountain where the cold wind whistled, a black-robed figure calmly stood atop the mountain peak. His face was as thin as bones and his eyes glowed with a green light. As the cold wind blew, his black robes fluttered. He was the person the Xia people were searching for, Nua and swish. The space around them split open, and a beautiful woman in red immediately flew over. She respectfully presented a crystal ball with both hands, and her voice was filled with confidence. Master, I've collected over 100 million human souls. Very soon many figures tore through space and rushed over, all of them offering the crystal ball with both hands. Master, only 60 million human souls have been collected. Master, I couldn't. All of them were nervous and apprehensive. They had received orders from their master to return immediately. All right. The black-robed man waved his hand and all the crystal balls were put away. Then his eyes glowed with a green light. Immediately, his eyes seemed to open up two passageways leading to the void. One by one, the servants flew into the black-robed man's eyes. I didn't expect that I would be discovered by the Xia people even though I moved so quickly. It's a pity that I didn't collect as many souls as I expected. The black-robed man spoke in a low voice. Then, with a flash, he entered the mouth of a volcano not far away. He quickly flew down the mouth of the volcano. Soon he arrived at a huge magma lake deep within the mouth of the volcano. This magma lake spanned several kilometers. Who? The black-robed man stood on the surface of the bubbling magma and said, General Ku Meng, wake up. His voice directly transmitted into the depths of the magma lake. Go. The magma lake began to bubble and the entire magma lake began to surge. Indistinctly, an enormous figure began to emerge from the depths of the magma lake. First it was a huge bald head. His head was shiny and he had no eyebrows or hair on his face. His entire face was smooth and clean. His enormous head was more than 200 meters tall, like a small mountain. The enormous head opened its mouth and yawned, and a turbulent flow of air caused the entire magma lake to shake. Nuan, I haven't slept for long. The enormous head said and at the same time stood up. A towering figure stood up from within the magma lake. Although the magma lake was already very deep, it only reached the waist of the towering giant. This giant had no hair on his body, and his entire body was silver. As he strode forward, his body rapidly shrank. In just a dozen steps he had become a normal height of 3 meters. General Ku Meng, I've already collected the souls. It's time to meet the Lord, the black-robed man said. His attitude could be considered polite. There was no other way. Among the 3 experts of the Dark Abyss team, although Nuan was incomparably tyrannical, he was still the weakest. This General Ku Meng was originally a high-ranked demon from the purgatory. Due to some fortuitous encounters, he was able to cultivate a secret technique that allowed him to cultivate his body to its current state. Most importantly, his realm was extremely high. It could be said that there were no flaws. Meet the Lord. General Ku Meng was slightly startled, and his attitude immediately became much more respectful. Let's go. After exiting the volcano. On a wasteland next to the volcano, there was an ordinary-looking wooden house. A dark-skinned young man wrapped in white cloth was sitting cross-legged in the wooden house. Lord. Nuan and General Ku Meng respectfully called out. The black-skinned youth slowly opened his eyes. Under his gaze, the surrounding space and time seemed to freeze. He stood up. His feet were bare. He had no armor on his body, nor did he have any boots. He was only wrapped in ordinary white cloth, and his skinny black arms were bare as he walked barefoot. However, Nuan and General Ku Meng didn't even bother to breathe. Lord, according to the customs of the Dark Abyss, one could only become a lord after becoming a demon god. However, this black-skinned youth wrapped in white cloth had become a lord even though he was only a demigod. If it weren't for that great existence personally appearing and threatening him, this black-skinned youth wouldn't have gone to Crimson Rock Mountain and risked his life. It couldn't be helped. The Dark Abyss was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. Nuan, how is it? The black-skinned youth smiled. His smile carried a strange charm that seemed to quiet the entire world. I originally wanted to collect 1 billion souls, but I was discovered by Ghost Knight Feng Dong of Black White Deity Mountain. He killed one of my ghost servants. I immediately ordered the rest of the ghost servants to withdraw to prevent the Xia people's demigods from intercepting us. Thus I only managed to collect 600 million human souls, Nuan respectfully said. At the same time he held a crystal ball in his hands. This crystal ball contained 100 million human souls. According to the Lord's orders, Nuan was to capture 100 million souls for him. The remaining 900 million were for Nuan himself. However, halfway through, Feng Dong had ruined it. Whoosh! A powerful suction force appeared. The black-skinned youth opened his mouth wide, and the crystal ball immediately flew over, directly into his mouth. The large crystal ball, the black-skinned youth's mouth seemed to be able to expand, and he actually swallowed it in one gulp. Even his head and throat had become a size larger. He forcefully swallowed the crystal ball. The countless human souls within the crystal ball wailed in anguish. Truly delicious. The black-skinned youth closed his eyes, a look of enjoyment on his face. The souls of humans in the material world are truly a delicacy. If we weren't forced to this place and had to risk our lives in Crimson Rock Mountain, it would be quite enjoyable. With Lord's strength, we will definitely be able to return safely from Crimson Rock Mountain, Nuan said. Live? The black-skinned youth's eyes were calm. Of course I will live. Yulan will definitely return. Let's go. We'll first go to Black-White Deity Mountain. To Black-White Deity Mountain? Nuan and General Ku Meng were puzzled. The black-skinned youth indifferently said, Xia people's transcendent Feng Dong killed your ghost servant, which is equivalent to killing my servant. How can I just let it go? Chapter 290. Within the mirage, a ghostly figure was traversing at high speed. His speed was simply too fast. Every time he flashed, he would travel thousands of kilometers. This kind of speed was unquestionably the fastest amongst the transcendents of the Xia people. While traversing at high speed, his figure would occasionally enter the real world. He would pause briefly in the real world before returning to the mirage and continuing onward. This was a sickly-looking white-robed youth. He was Dongbo Shuiying, who was searching for the Dark Abyss team. Perhaps I can't kill you, but I should at least try. Perhaps I can kill you, right? Dongbo Shuiying muttered. Even if I can't kill you now, I'll find an opportunity after entering Crimson Rock Mountain. He had entered the real world to contact the outside world through his communication wristband. After all, many of the demigods of the Xia people were searching for him. If others found him, he naturally wouldn't have to waste time searching. However, in terms of efficiency, Dongbo Shuiying, who could instantly scan an area of 10,000 kilometers, was also the best of the Xia people. Obviously, after 100 years, Dongbo Shuiying was no longer the same person he was back then. At this time, the demigods of the Xia people, including Dongbo Shuiying, were searching for traces of the Dark Abyss team and the enemy named Nuan. However, they would never have guessed that the team had already arrived at Black-White Deity Mountain. High up in the sky, a pitch-black tunnel appeared. 3 figures walked out of the tunnel. The one in the lead was the barefoot black-skinned youth wrapped in white cloth. On his left and right were the black-robed Nuan and General Ku Meng. Everything in the material world is so exquisite and beautiful. Look at this Black-White Deity Mountain. It's not like our Dark Abyss, crude and barbaric. We only know how to kill and not appreciate the beauty of all things. The black-skinned youth's voice carried a strange rhythm that calmed the hearts of those who heard it, making them want to crawl and follow him. Even the souls of the material world are so delicious. No wonder even the demon gods like them. The black-skinned youth laughed. When we leave Crimson Rock Mountain, we'll bring back more human souls. Lord, don't worry. When the time comes, we'll slaughter everyone in this mortal world and take away all the human souls, said Nuan. We still have to leave some behind. We have to leave some seeds behind. The black-skinned youth looked at the Black-White God Mountain. They've come out. In the distance, 4 figures appeared outside a large hall of the Black-White Deity Mountain. They were Mountain Lord He, Vice Mountain Lord Zhang Nua, Ghost Deity Knight Feng Dong, and Palace Lord Qin. Palace Lord Qin had sent his Chi avatar here to understand the details of the previous battle. The 4 of them had come out precisely because they sensed the spatial fluctuations in the outside world. Ghost Deity Knight Feng Dong coldly looked at the outside world. Suddenly, his pupils constricted as he stared at the black-robed man. That skinny, bone-like face and those green glowing eyes. The face of this black-robed man was exactly the same as Lord Nuan's head. Mountain Lord He, Palace Lord Qin, Vice Mountain Lord Zhang Nua, that black-robed man is Nuan, Ghost deity Knight Feng Dong hurriedly transmitted. Yes, it's him. That's him. Previously, Mountain Lord He and the others had also seen the scene that Feng Dong had demonstrated, and they had seen the illusory skulls. They actually dared to come to the Black-White Deity Mountain. Ghost deity Knight Feng Dong was furious. Don't be anxious, Mountain Lord He transmitted. Let's wait first. If they dare to come like this, they must have something up their sleeves. Moreover, the Black-White Deity Mountain's strength isn't enough. Let's wait a little longer. I'll bring Ding Jiu's battleship from the Infernal Palace. Palace Lord Qin transmitted. Small matters could not spoil great plans. As a demigod of the Xia people, he still had this bit of patience. In the distant sky, the three silhouettes stood there, seemingly ordinary. The leader, a barefooted black-skinned youth wrapped in white cloth, smiled and said, I didn't expect to see Mountain Lord He and Palace Lord Qin here. That's great. Let me introduce myself. My name is Yulan. You can call me Lords of Ulan. Lord. In front of the Great Hall, Palace Head Qin and Mountain Lord He were both puzzled. They knew too little about the Dark Abyss. The ancestor deities of the Xia clan would normally enter the deity world. As for those who entered the Dark Abyss, even though there were 6 in the history of the Xia clan, they were all traitors who joined the demonic faction. Naturally, they no longer had any contact with the Xia people. Therefore, they knew very little about the Dark Abyss. However, according to what they knew, only demonic gods had the qualifications to become lords. Although I was forced to come to the Xia people's world, the delicacy of human souls still makes me very happy. The Lords of Ulan smiled. I just didn't expect that I would only send my servants to collect the souls of mortals. I didn't even target you Xia people transcendents. You Xia people transcendents were actually so daring to kill my servants. His words caused the anger of Palace Lord Qin and the others to surge. Tell me you killed my servants and offended me. How should you apologize? The Lords of Ulan asked. Apologize? Lords of Ulan, you ordered your servants to kill countless of my Xia people, and you still dare to ask us to apologize? You really make my Xia people so easy to bully. Palace Lord Qin snorted angrily. In front of me Palace Lord Qin, you still dare to be so impudent. The Lords of Ulan shook his head. I won't bicker with you. However, your Xia people transcendents, Feng Dong, killed my servants. This cannot be counted. My request is very simple. Compensate me with 30 deity-grade scrolls. This matter will be settled like this. I won't bicker with you Xia people. However, if I don't compensate, I'm afraid that your Xia people won't be able to accept the consequences. You killed countless of my Xia people and you still want 30 deity-grade scrolls? Palace Lord Qin, Mountain Lord He, Ghost Deity Knight Feng Dong, and Vice Mountain Lord Zhang Nuo were all so angry that they didn't know what to say. 30 deity-grade scrolls? How many scrolls did the entire Xia people have accumulated? The way he opened his mouth wasn't just an ordinary level of ruthlessness. Furthermore, he had clearly just killed countless Xia people, yet he still dared to take the initiative to kill his way to their doorstep. This was too much. Xia people, I advise you to listen to the Lord's orders. Otherwise, humph. The black-robed Nuan sneered. You will regret this, General Ku Meng said from the side. Right, there's one more thing I almost forgot. The Lords of Ulan suddenly stretched out his hand. His arms suddenly expanded, becoming like a heavenly pillar. From the distant sky, he directly grabbed towards the front of the Black-White Deity Mountain's main hall. The length of his arm was simply shocking. This scene caused Palace Lord Qin and the others to be shocked. Mountain Lord He angrily shouted, Stop! Hong long, the entire Black-White Deity Mountain's array was instantly activated. Since he saw the enemy, Mountain Lord He had long been vigilant. Many of the spatial sealing arrays had already been activated. At this moment, the true sealing array was activated. The huge black and white light barrier from before appeared out of nowhere and completely covered the entire Black-White Deity Mountain, not leaving a single gap. The Lords of Ulan's mouth slightly curled upwards. Golden runes appeared on his palm, and his 5 fingers were densely packed with golden runes. His 5 fingers directly pierced the black and white light barrier. With a pung sound, the huge black and white light barrier instantly shattered, and the mountain guarding array was easily penetrated. What? Mountain Lord He was shocked. Even an era-suppressing transcendent can forget about breaking this mountain guarding array, yet he was able to do it so easily. Perhaps only an expert who has truly become a deity would be able to do this. A true deity? Quickly dodge. Palace Lord Qin anxiously transmitted. The 4 of them immediately scattered in all directions. Black and white moon. Kill. Mountain Lord He immediately controlled the deity artifact. When two dazzling crescent moons appeared. The black and white moon were like two streams of light, guiding the power of the black-white deity mountain's array. As the strongest deity artifact of the black-white deity mountain, it was also compatible with the array, allowing it to display even more power within the black-white deity mountain. It had completely reached the level of an era-suppressing expert. Interesting. The lords of Ulan softly muttered. His palm directly grabbed towards the fleeing ghost deity Knight Fengdong. Suddenly, everything in the surroundings slowed down. Regardless of whether it was the fleeing Fengdong or the intercepting black and white moon, their speed became very slow. Only the arm of the lords of Ulan, which was like a heavenly pillar, maintained its normal speed. His huge palm easily grabbed onto the fleeing Fengdong. Then it rapidly retracted, turning into a mere 10 meters long. The 5 fingers of the palm were still grabbing onto Fengdong's waist. This, Mountain Lord He, Palace Lord Qin and Vice Mountain Lord Zhang Nuo were all stunned. This kind of strength was too terrifying. In the history of the Xia people, they knew that between the beast race and the Xia people, as long as one side produced a deity, the other side would completely retreat and give up on the entire mortal world. This was because the power of a deity was something transcendence could not resist. But this time, even though the lords of Ulan was only a demigod, Mountain Lord He and the rest felt as though they were facing a deity. Fengdong, don't worry. I won't kill you immediately. This is because I still want to ask for 30 deity-grade scrolls from your Xia people. The lords of Ulan looked at Fengdong. It's very simple. As long as you apologize to me and kowtow to me, I will spare your life. Apologize and beg for mercy? Kowtow? Fengdong felt that all the power in his body had been sealed by the dark magic, but his eyes were still filled with anger. He could not forget the countless people who had died in the county city, and the survivors of the county city he had saved. Especially the terrified expressions of those youths. You foreign races, I can't wait to kill you, yet you still want to apologize and beg for mercy? Dream on. Fengdong gritted his teeth. If you don't apologize and beg for mercy, I will kill you. The lords of Ulan continued to smile. When facing the foreign races, there are only transcendents from the Xia people who die in battle. There are no transcendents from the Xia people who kneel and beg for mercy. Fengdong raged. You really have guts. The lords of Ulan smiled. His enormous palms suddenly clenched, and the space around Fengdong's body was completely shattered. Fengdong's body was completely shattered. He looked at the lords of Ulan with eyes filled with rage. Even in death he did not lower his head. Transcendence from the Xia people, Fengdong died. Stop. An anxious voice came from the black-white deity mountain. Don't be anxious. The lords of Ulan looked at the enraged Mountain Lord He and the rest and smiled. He killed my servant and refused to apologize and beg for mercy. Of course I have to kill him. Oh right, hand over the 30 deity-grade scrolls quickly. Otherwise, Fengdong is just the beginning. What comes next will be even more unacceptable. When the lords of Ulan laughed, they revealed their pure white teeth. Apart from this, the Xia people also had other methods to protect their clans. However, normally, for example, if the demon beast race gave birth to a deity, the Xia people would not go head-to-head with them. This was because the power of a deity was inexhaustible. However, the number of deity-grade scrolls used was 1 less, and the number of treasures used was 1 less. Moreover, if they were to go all out, the chances of winning against a deity would be very slim. Even if they won, if they met with another crisis and did not have enough resources to support them, that would be the end of their race. Thus, the Xia people would not easily go head-to-head with them. They needed time to consider. This was because the mortal world had been forced to give up many times. Thus, the headquarters of the Black-White Deity Mountain Water Taoist faction, Sea Deity Palace, and so on only had spirit arrays that could withstand the might of an era suppressor. After all, they were prepared to give up at any time. Only the infernal world, the Xia capital. That was truly the strongest. If the lords of Ulan were to attack the Xia capital, they would suffer greatly. However, he was no fool. He would not attack the base of the Xia people. The other teams are not willing to go head-to-head with us, the Xia people. Palace Lord Qin frowned. We are worried that with some deity-grade scrolls, the Xia people will be at a disadvantage or even lose their lives. However, this Lords of Wulan has grasped the true meaning of time deceleration. Even if we use the deity-grade scrolls, the moment he slows down time, he will have enough time to dodge and escape. That's right. Time-related true meanings are truly troublesome. Our killing techniques might not be effective. The demigods of the Xia people were having a headache. If they could not even touch the enemy's killing technique, what use was there for them to be powerful? Actually, the time deity heart was a grade 2 deity heart. The space deity heart was also a grade 2 deity heart. Only the time-space deity heart was a grade 1 deity heart. However, the true meaning of time was classified as a grade 1 true meaning. What? It was because transcendence usually could not come into contact with the profound mysteries of time. This resulted in the true meaning of time having such a miraculous effect. Regardless of whether it was time acceleration, time deceleration, or even time stop, they all had terrifying effects during battles. Only after becoming a deity would one come into contact with some time-related techniques. At that time, the power of time would no longer be so exaggerated. But among transcendents, the true meaning of time was indeed heaven-defying. Wu Mahai and the other team leaders also wanted to obtain deity-grade scrolls. However, none of them dared to do so. Only the Lords of Wulan dared to do so. Because he had grasped the true meaning of time deceleration, he had the confidence to fight against the Xia people. Transcendence of the Xia people. The voice of the Lords of Wulan reverberated throughout the world. The walls of the Dingjiu battleship began to turn transparent, easily reflecting the outside world. Mountain Lord He, Palace Lord Qin, and the others could all see the three terrifying existences standing in midair outside. What? The Dingjiu battleship of the Xia people has arrived. Is it here to deliver the deity-grade scrolls? The Lords of Wulan continued to laugh. Before that Feng Dong died, he said that the transcendence of the Xia people would rather die in battle than lower their heads. I don't believe that the Xia people will lower their heads in the face of absolute power, right? I'll go test him. Si Kongyang was incomparably furious within the battleship. Amen, you go test him first. Palace Lord Qin nodded. Si Kongyang immediately flew out of the battleship. If the Xia people had another transcendent, the only one who would dare to face him head-on would be Si Kongyang. This was because he possessed a special clan-protecting treasure of the Xia people, the 9-dragon fire deity armor. Bang! Flying out of the battleship, a scarlet-red battle armor appeared on the surface of Si Kongyang's body. On the scarlet-red battle armor were entrenched dragons. A terrifying might accumulated on the surface of his body, and at the same time, an incomparably dazzling flame rose. At this moment, Si Kongyang's entire body was like a sun. The brilliance of the flames on the surface of his body even surpassed that of the sun in the sky. It was so dazzling, emitting an overbearing aura, and its might spread out in all directions. The 9-dragon fire deity armor was one of the clan-protecting deity weapons of the Xia people. Its value far surpassed that of ordinary deity weapons. This was because when worn on the body, the might of 9 dragons would be added onto the body, allowing the user to instantly possess the might of 9 dragons. Purely from the aspect of might, it would directly rise to the deity grade. However, because his realm was too low, even when he wore the 9-dragon fire deity armor, he only had the strength of an era suppressor. However, there was one benefit. The 9-dragon fire deity armor could completely protect every part of his body. No matter how strong the enemy was, it would be hard for them to injure Si Kongyang. 9-dragon fire deity armor? The Lords of Wulan in the sky laughed. It's even more precious than my deity weapon. It's a pity that the person using it is too weak. Inside Dingjiu's battleship. Get ready. Seize the opportunity and give him a fatal blow. The deity crystals of our Xia people are too scarce. We are preparing to deal with the sorcerer god and the great demon god. It would be best if we can kill the Lords of Wulan in one strike. Palace Lord Qin looked towards Mountain Lord He. Don't worry. Mountain Lord He nodded, his eyes flickering with flames. Dingjiu's battleship was a battleship of the deity world. Those who used battleships in the deity world were usually deities. Thus, the ordinary energy source was too weak. Even if Mountain Lord He's demigod magic power was still too weak, he would not be able to display the true might of this battleship. Deity crystals were the crystallization of the deity's deity power. They were extremely precious. Only by using them as the energy source of the battleship would the true might be displayed. First chapter. Chapter 292. Nuo Nuan, stop him, the lords of Ulan ordered as they watched Si Kongyang charge towards them. Yes, Nuo Nuan immediately replied. Nuo Nuan's eyes glowed with a sinister light as he faced the blazing figure that resembled a dazzling sun. He let out a strange laugh and suddenly pounced towards Si Kongyang. At the same time, Nuo Nuan's body completely disintegrated, turning into hundreds of balls of black mist. Each ball turned into an evil spirit, some handsome, some ugly, some seductive, and some strange. The 100 evil spirits roared at the same time, Si Kongyang die. The 100 evil spirits roared in unison, but it sounded like a single person's roar. In fact, it was indeed Lord Nuo Nuan's roar. His body had already disintegrated into 100 parts, and each evil spirit was his avatar. With the support of his body, the strength of these evil spirits naturally soared. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 100 evil spirits simultaneously surrounded Si Kongyang. Extinguish. Si Kongyang sent out a palm strike. Flames raged as a dazzling golden palm struck out. Ha ha, that's all you've got? Too weak. These evil spirits surrounded Si Kongyang, and no matter how Si Kongyang attacked, their bodies remained intact. Although the strongest of them was only in the top 10 of the demigod ranking, and most of them were only experienced demigods, they were all immortal. However, all of them had undying bodies and were very difficult to destroy. In an instant, Si Kongyang was unable to break through their joint encirclement. Ow! The 100 evil spirits suddenly howled, their howls seemingly trying to bore into his soul. The flames on the surface of Si Kongyang's body burned fiercely. That terrifying howl was blocked by the power on the surface of his body, and another 80 to 90% was blocked by the armor on the surface of his body. When he felt the remaining sound faintly piercing into his soul, with a thought, he almost completely isolated this howl. How troublesome. This 9 dragon fire deity armor can't be broken no matter what I do. Lord Nuo Nuan was infuriated. Even if he were to encounter an era suppressor, he would only know who was stronger and who was weaker after a fight. But Si Kongyang, nothing could break through his defense. The lords of Ulan would probably have the same result. Thus, the lords of Ulan were too lazy to make a move. This Xia clan transcendent has a deity armor protecting his body. Otherwise, how could he have withstood Nuo Nuan's 10,000 ghost resentment? General Ku Meng coldly said. Just the ghost resentment poison alone is enough to drive him insane. He is relying on the 9 dragon fire deity armor. Such a good armor has been wasted in his hands. Unfortunately, the Xia people's treasures have been left behind by the gods of Xia people can't be used. So they can't be refined. Otherwise I could have brought. As the lords of Ulan spoke, their eyes were fixed on Ding Jiao's battleship. They didn't care about Si Kongyang at all. Because Si Kongyang only had the strength of an era suppressor. He wasn't a threat to them. What was an era suppressor? Condensing a true deity heart with a grade 3 true meaning, or reaching the stage 3 realm with a grade 2 true meaning. Furthermore, wielding a deity weapon. That was the strength of an era suppressor. Power and the laws of profound mysteries were both indispensable. For example, Si Kongyang could borrow the power of the 9 dragon fire deity armor to reach the deity realm. But the laws of profound mysteries were only at the grade 4 deity heart. Faction head Si Kong is being held back by Nuo Nuan. In the main hall of Ding Jiao's battleship, the demigods of the Xia people were all anxious. They had hoped that Si Kongyang would fight with the lords of Ulan to distract the lords of Ulan. We can't care about that anymore. Palace Lord Qin frowned. Let's give it a try. Let's do it. Emin? Mountain Lord, he nodded. The deity crystal was a 4-sided rhombus cylinder. Its entire body was azure in color, and it was breathtakingly beautiful. At this moment, it was embedded in the engine compartment of Ding Jiao's battleship. Previously, Mountain Lord he had used his own magic power to control the battleship, but now he retracted his magic power and began guiding the energy of the deity crystal to activate the battleship's array. The array was incomparably complex and was at the level of a deity. Mountain Lord he could only understand a portion of it and activate a portion of its power. A deep blue lightning bolt instantly streaked across the sky. It was like a terrifying deep blue serpent. The moment it appeared, the surrounding world faintly trembled. Everywhere it passed, space turned into nothingness, leaving behind only a pitch-black crack. Its might caused the hearts of Nuo Nuo and General Ku Meng, and even the lords of Ulan to tremble. This was the peak attack of the deity battleship of the Xia people. Even though they were already prepared to fight against the Xia clan when they decided to do so, They still felt the threat of death when facing this attack. Fast. Fast to the extreme. This terrifying deep blue serpent had almost instantly arrived in front of the Lords of Ulan. Deity battleship. The Lords of Ulan were constantly on guard. At this moment their pupils shrank, the area around them, especially the area where the deep blue serpent was attacking, immediately experienced a change in the flow of time and began to slow down. Under this flow of time, the terrifying deep blue lightning bolt also began to slow down. However, even though it had slowed down, it was still shockingly fast. In an instant, it swept through the body of the Lords of Ulan. Only then did the body of the Lords of Ulan slowly disappear. Tens of meters away, the body of the Lords of Ulan appeared. This deep blue lightning bolt bombarded the entire way. In the blink of an eye, the top half of a distant mountain was silently turned into nothingness. In the blink of an eye, it had traversed 1,000 kilometers and directly rushed underground. This deep blue lightning bolt continued to penetrate more than 1,000 kilometers underground, forming a deep and serene cavern. It was only under the continuous obstruction of the invisible laws of the underground that it finally dissipated. The Lords of Ulan secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the true meaning of time deceleration was effective and did not force them to use their life-saving methods. Damn it, he actually dodged it. Just a little bit more. The group of demigods of the Xia people in the Dingzhou battleship were anxious and unwilling. The arrays of the Dingzhou battleship are too complex and mysterious. I only understand a little about them, Mountain Lord, he said in a low voice. If my comprehension was higher, I would be able to unleash a greater power. He Yuan, this is a battleship from the deity world. Even deities have to carefully study it before they can unleash its full power. You are already the one among the Xia people who can unleash the greatest power of this battleship. Furthermore, this cannot be blamed on you. His true meaning of time deceleration is truly too troublesome. Palace Lord Qin was also anxious. Even when we attack, he can still decelerate time and calmly deal with it. If it were any other grade 2 true meaning, for example, offensive type or purely defensive type, facing such a terrifying attack from the Dingzhou battleship, the majority of them would not be able to dodge in time and would be struck. The moment they were struck, they would most likely die. Haha, you Xia people are truly willing to spend. This attack has already consumed a deity crystal from you Xia people, right? Come, let's continue. Let me see how many more tricks you Xia people have up your sleeves. The Lords of Ulan said coldly. Dongbua Shuiying was currently traversing the mirage in search of the team from the dark abyss. Wah! He once again entered the real world. This was a beautiful and calm valley. Although he was searching, he would occasionally enter the real world to receive messages from the outside world. Snow Eagle, we have found the team from the dark abyss. Leave the rest to us. This was a message from Palace Lord Qin. Clearly, Palace Lord Qin was not willing to let Dongbua Shuiying participate in this matter. He did not even tell Dongbua Shuiying the location of the Black-White Deity Mountain. From his point of view, even if Dongbua Shuiying were to participate, he would not be able to help much. Unless he were to enter the mirage and launch a sneak attack? He was still worried that Dongbua Shuiying would lose his life because of this. The enemy was simply too strong. Other than Si Kongyang, who relied on the 9 Dragonfire deity armor, none of the other Xia people demigods could face them head-on. They had to rely on the clan protection treasures of the Xia people. Brother Dongbua, the team from the Dark Abyss have killed their way to the Black-White Deity Mountain. They massacred countless mortals of my Xia clan and even demanded 30 deity-grade scrolls. Even Senior Feng Dong was killed by the Lords of Ulan. He was killed in one move. Brother Snow Eagle, the battle at the Black-White Deity Mountain has begun. Senior Feng Dong died a terrible death. He was forced to kowtow and beg for his life. Senior Feng Dong would rather die than lower his head and was killed. Snow Eagle. News came one after another. These were all news from the Transcendents. One must know that the other Transcendents at the Black-White Deity Mountain had witnessed the scene and were enraged. Naturally, they spread the news. Palace Lord Qin had also ordered that the other Transcendents were not to interfere. The demigods were already preparing for battle. Although they were not allowed to participate, they still passed on the news. Naturally, the news reached Dongbua Shuiying as well. Shuiying looked through the many messages. Only then did he understand what had happened. His expression became uglier and uglier, becoming ashen and gloomy like water. Black-White Deity Mountain. Dongbua Shuiying waved his hand and tore open a spatial crack. He instantly entered the crack and rushed towards the Black-White Deity Mountain. As he flew through the spatial crack, his body emitted the true meaning of extreme piercing as he broke through all obstacles. At the same time, Dongbo Shuiying held a flask of wine in one hand and gulped down the antidote, 100 Bitter Restoration. As the antidote entered his body, the pain in his body was quickly suppressed. Although it was still painful, it did not affect his battle. The second chapter was over. There was still a third chapter to go. Star. Chapter 293. The cabin door of the gigantic pitch-black celestial world warship that was hovering beside the black-white deity mountain opened. Si Kongyang quickly returned to the ship. This time, his main objective was to disturb the lords of Ulan so that the killer move, Dingjiu warship, would be effective. Since he had failed, there was no point in continuing to fight. Thus he returned at full speed. He was wearing the 9 Dragonfire divine armor and had reached the divine level. If he insisted on leaving, even this team from the Dark Abyss would not be able to stop him. What should we do now? City Lady Bu furrowed her brows and said anxiously, what other ways do we have to deal with the lords of Ulan? The most promising killer move has failed. Palace Lord Qin shook his head. Dingjiu's warship is a lightning serpent. It is extremely fast, but it is still lacking by a hair. Although the Xia people have many God-tier scrolls, the God-tier scrolls still need us to control and guide them. Tearing apart the deity-level scroll, then controlling it. The higher the realm, the more perfect the control. But no matter how perfect it was still not as good as when the gods used it personally. Our chances of success are very low. Palace Lord Qin was also vexed. Sigh, it's a pity that among the god-tier scrolls of the Xia people, there isn't one that can restrain the true meaning of time deceleration. Only after becoming a god will one gradually come into contact with the mysteries of time. Mountain Lord, he continued, when the ancestors of our Xia people first became deities, their comprehension of time was very low. Naturally, they were unable to refine any deity-grade scrolls that could counter the time deceleration. This is so frustrating, so frustrating. The Grand Elder Palace Master growled. Hundreds of millions of clansmen were killed. Brother Feng Dong died in battle, but there was nothing we could do. Hate that we are not strong enough. Vice Mountain Lord Zhang Nuo said in a low voice. The group of Xia people demigods were all furious and unwilling. But there was no other way. The enemy had come from the Dark Abyss. They were the true top-notch demigods that had been selected by a great existence. They had been selected from an extremely large area. How could the transcendence of a mortal world compare? Just as the transcendence of the Xia people were unable to think of a solution. Out of the 3 terrifying existences standing in mid-air, the leader of the Lords of Ulan smirked. He did not want to give the Xia people too much time and immediately said, Xia people transcendence, you have 2 choices now. The first is to take out the clan protection treasures of the Xia people, as well as the divine-tiered scrolls and other treasures that you can use. Attack as you please. Dingjiu's warship, come and attack. Fight me to the death. The second choice is to obediently hand over the 30 god-tier scrolls, and I won't hold it against you for offending me. 2 choices. Are we going to fight or are we going to hand over the 30 god-tier scrolls? Take your pick. The lords of Ulan continued to smile. I don't have time to waste with you. I'll give you 10 breaths of time to discuss. I have no choice but to have some fun. Even if you hide in Dingjiu's warship, the countless mortals of the Xia people's world won't be able to hide in there, right? I will kill them all and not a single one will be spared. Don't doubt me, this is very easy for me. You only have 10 breaths of time. The countdown has already begun. The lords of Ulan did not say anything else after finishing his sentence. On the other side, within the enormous Dingjiu's warship. Within the main hall of the warship, a group of demigods of the Xia people peered through the transparent walls at the barefooted, black-skinned youth wrapped in white cloth. He looked like an ordinary black-skinned youth. He did not have the scales or horns of an ordinary demon. However, all the demigods of the Xia people felt a chill run down their spines. This was the most terrifying demon they had ever seen. What do we do? What do we do? We have 2 choices. Do we fight or do we surrender? In 10 breaths of time he will begin his massacre. The demigods of the Xia people were incomparably anxious. Even the 6 ordinary transcendents of the black-white deity mountain in the main hall were extremely anxious. They all began to transmit messages to the outside world. The demigods also began to transmit messages and began to arrange for the mortals to quickly migrate. Just what should we do? Palace Lord Qin, Mountain Lord He and Grand Elder Palace Head, who had extremely high statuses amongst the Xia people, were so anxious that their foreheads were covered in sweat. This was an extremely crucial moment. We can't surrender. We definitely can't surrender. We, the Xia people, will never surrender to a foreign race and offer our treasures. Si Kongyang roared. If we don't surrender, are we supposed to fight? Pay countless treasures. When we face the sorcerer god and the great demon god in the future, what should we do? Mountain Lord, he said painfully, or flee without fighting? Watch as countless mortals of the Xia people are killed? Then what do you think we should do? Si Kongyang anxiously asked. I don't know either. Mountain Lord, he shook his head and closed his eyes. His eyes were filled with tears. That's right. They really wanted to go all out and sacrifice all the resources of the Xia people to get rid of this damned Lords of Ulan. However, if they did that, they would probably face the sorcerer god and the great demon god in the future. The Xia people would probably be exterminated. A moment of joy would make them the sinners of the entire Xia people. Chem? Suddenly, the demigods of the Xia people in the warship turned their heads and looked through the cabin wall at the distant sky. In the distant sky, they saw a pitch-black crack in space. What? At this time, who dares to directly tear through space and rush over? The Lords of Ulan and the other two who were waiting for the reply of the Xia people all turned their heads and looked into the distance. At this moment, both parties' gazes were gathered there. In the distant sky, from the crack in space, a white-robed youth flew out. Oh, it's that Dongbua Shuang? The Lords of Ulan asked. When they were sent over, they naturally received intelligence on the experts of the Xia people's world, including information on Dongbua Shuang. It's that Dongbua Shuang. Looking at his complexion, he must have been suffering from the voodoo poison. But why is this kid here? Does he want to die? The black-robed Nuan said. Perhaps he knows that he's about to die, so he wants to fight? General Ku Meng said with a low laugh. On the other side. On the side of the Xia clan, everyone was anxious. One must know that previously, the demigods of the Xia people had gathered in Dingzhou's warship from afar. No one dared to come here directly. If they did, it would be very easy for them to be ambushed by the three terrifying demigods of the Dark Abyss. Why are you here? The cabin door of Dingzhou's warship opened. Palace Lord Qin was incomparably anxious. Quickly come over. Why can't I be here? Dongbua Shuang smiled. Palace Lord Qin, this is your fault. You didn't even tell me about such a big matter. I only found out about the black-white deity mountain from the other transcendents. Don't forget. I'm also a transcendent of the Xia people. Palace Lord Qin's heart ached when he heard this. Quickly come over. Palace Lord Qin anxiously waved his hand. He knew that Dongbua Shuang was not afraid of death, but if his death was too worthless, would there be any meaning? He was worried that Dongbua Shuang, who was suffering from the voodoo poison, would take the risk. He could still control the other demigods of the Xia people, but Dongbua Shuang could walk through the Mirage realm. Dingzhou's warship could not stop him. Snow Eagle, quickly come over. Si Kongyang, who was beside Palace Lord Qin, appeared anxiously. However, Dongbua Shuang did not care about them at all. Instead, he flew towards the three Lords of Ulan. Snow Eagle, are you crazy? Palace Lord Qin transmitted anxiously. What's the point of you going now? You're trying to be a hero, but it's useless. You're even throwing your life away? These three from the Dark Abyss are really very strong, especially the Lords of Ulan. They are comparable to real gods. What are you going to do? If you die like this, I will only look down on you. However, no matter what he said, it was useless. Palace Lord Qin was also filled with hatred. If he had known earlier, he would have sealed the surrounding 10,000 li area. In order to conserve the energy of Dingzhou's warship, he only sealed the surrounding 100 li area. It was mainly to prevent the Lords of Ulan from teleporting into the warship. Dongbua Shuang flew in front of the black-white deity mountain, and also in front of Dingzhou's warship. He stood in midair, facing the three Lords of Ulan. Dongbua Shuang stopped in midair and looked at the three. The three of you, the Xia people, have always treated you with respect and did not want to offend you. You can fight however you want, the Xia people are not willing to get involved. But what about you? Shui Ying's voice was gloomy, yet you all slaughtered billions of my Xia clan's pigs and dogs, devoured and tortured their souls. Vice Mountain Lord Feng Dong merely did not kowtow or beg for mercy, yet you all killed him. What did he do wrong? He was only protecting us, the Xia people. Even so, you are not willing to give up. You still want us, the Xia people, to hand over 30 god-tier scrolls. If we don't hand them over, you will kill all the humans in the Xia people's world. Not a single one will be left alive. Dongbu Shuiying's voice trembled slightly. The transcendents of the Xia people in Dingzhou's worship were all furious, and some of them gritted their teeth so hard that they almost broke. I don't like your tone. The lords of Ulan frowned. So you can die now. As he spoke, he extended his right hand, and his arm expanded once more. You are the ones who deserve to die. Dongbu Shuiying roared. A long spear instantly appeared in his hand, and the shaft of the spear flowed like a cloud of fire. Following that, Shuiying disappeared into thin air, leaving no traces behind. The lords of Ulan who were about to attack, frowned and slowly retracted his arm. Where is he? Where is he? Nua and General Ku Meng's expressions changed, and they carefully probed. I heard that he has grasped the true meaning of shadow or the true meaning of mirage. However, if he is only at the first stage, it would be impossible for him to avoid my senses. The lords of Ulan frowned as they tried to sense their surroundings. However, no matter how hard they tried, apart from the group of transcendents in Dingzhou's worship in the distance, there was only nothingness. There was not a single transcendent in sight. There was only nothingness. Dongbu Shuiying had disappeared just like that. Don't be anxious. I will deal with you one by one. Take your time. A familiar voice resounded between heaven and earth. This caused the lords of Ulan to carefully sense their surroundings. However, even though they could not find anyone, the voice still resounded everywhere. Nua and you have slaughtered countless Xia people. The first to die will be you. **********. The third watch was over. Chapter 294. The lords of Ulan, General Ku Meng and Nua and all felt the scene in front of them change. Their consciousness was forcefully pulled into the mirage. Humph, you want to confuse me with this bit of illusory technique? The lords of Ulan coldly snorted. Their powerful consciousness instantly broke free, and the scene in front of them returned to reality. Ulan had grown up in the boundless dark abyss from a weak and lowly demon. Step by step he had slaughtered his way up to where he was today. General Ku Meng and Nua were also extraordinary people. Their consciousness was not directly controlled by the mirage, and they instantly broke free. Although they had broken free, their expressions changed slightly. This was because countless white fog had appeared in reality around them. The white fog was vast and mighty, appearing in a 10,000-kilometer radius around them. The fog covered a 10,000-kilometer radius, blocking out the sunlight. Everything around us is an illusory field. The surface of the lords of Ulan's body began to ripple. The ripples spread in all directions, causing the space they passed through to tremble. The white fog was also pulverized, preventing any white fog from invading a 5-kilometer radius around them. General Ku Meng and Lord Nua stood not far from the lords of Ulan. Both of them had the laws of profound mysteries protecting their bodies, allowing them to block the attack of the ripples. Within the range of my time domain, everything is an illusory field of white fog. The lords of Ulan calmly looked at their surroundings. The illusory field is at least 1,000 kilometers wide. His true meaning isn't the true meaning of shadow but the true meaning of mirage. With such a wide range, it's at least stage 2 of the true meaning of mirage. Before he makes a move, we won't be able to find any trace of him. Only when he makes a move, can we seize the opportunity to kill him. If they didn't make a move, no one would be able to find Dongbu Shuiying. But once they made a move, it was also the moment when Dongbu Shuiying's flaws were the most obvious. My lord, this Dongbu Shuiying's attack is too weak. Even if I stand here he wouldn't be able to injure me. General Ku Meng said confidently. This Dongbu Shuiying actually dared to say that he wanted to kill me, and even arrogantly said that I would be the first to die. Lord, leave him to me. The black-robed man Nuanuan's eyes glowed with a green light as he looked around, emitting a biting cold killing intent. Yes. The lords of Ulan nodded. In the dark abyss, there were plenty of opponents that were more terrifying and bizarre than Dongbu Shuiying. The lords of Ulan was very calm. From his point of view, his subordinates would be able to deal with this Dongbu Shuiying. Dingzhou's worship was also surrounded by white fog. Inside the worship, with the aid of the worship's probing ability, the white fog could not obstruct it at all. It could also clearly observe the 3 lords of Ulan. Is this Snow Eagle's true meaning of mirage? Palace Lord Qin, Mountain Lord He and the rest nervously watched. The other Xia people transcendents were also watching. Palace Lord Qin, Please help us seal the surrounding 10,000 li of space. Suddenly, a voice resounded in the warship's main hall. Seal? Palace Lord Chen was startled. If we seal the space, the three of them will not be able to teleport away. I will have enough time to deal with them one by one. All right. Palace Lord Chen nodded. Mountain Lord, he immediately controlled the entire Dingjiu's warship. This time he only needed to use his demigod transcendent magic power. Everything within 10,000 li of Dingjiu's warship seemed to solidify. The power of heaven and earth was frozen, and the space was forcefully sealed. Isn't it too risky for Snow Eagle? Chi Bai whispered worriedly. It is indeed too risky. Although the true meaning of mirage is strange, how can he deal with the lords of Ulan and the rest with just this? Palace Lord Chen shook his head. I've already advised him, but it's useless. I've fought with Nuan before, Si Kongyang frowned. He has a unique, undying body. Even I couldn't injure him. Saying all this is useless. City Lord Bu coldly said, we can't stop Snow Eagle either. Let's just hope for Snow Eagle. Who knows, maybe he'll kill Nuan. The atmosphere was extremely tense. The Xia people Transcendents all hoped that Dongbu Shuiying would win and ruthlessly suppress the other party's arrogance. If only he could kill one, that would be even better. However, their rationality told them that killing an era suppressor expert was extremely difficult. Si Kongyang also had the power of an era suppressor with the 9 dragon fire deity armor, yet he couldn't even injure a single hair on Nuan's head. Kill. Apart from that, the Xia people Transcendents were even more worried about Dongbu Shuiying's own safety. If he couldn't kill the enemy, he would die first. The lords of Ulan floated in the air, waves of energy radiating in all directions. General Ku Meng was also very calm. The black-robed Nuan's green eyes were filled with killing intent as he carefully looked in every direction. At the same time he sneered, Dongbu Shuiying, come. Let me see how much. Before he could finish his words, a fiery red spear suddenly appeared out of thin air, carrying a terrifying killing intent as it fiercely stabbed forward. In an instant, it pierced through the layers of space, directly into the black-robed Nuan's head. Rip! The black-robed Nuan grinned maliciously, not even bothering to dodge. He allowed the spear to pierce through his forehead. Die! The black-robed Nuan opened his mouth and let out a terrifying roar. Following this roar, a terrifying soundless howl instantly followed the stellar fire cloud spear and penetrated through the void, directly into the mirage. At their level, they could already forcefully penetrate the mirage through extremely powerful attacks. Inside the mirage, Dongbu Shuiying coldly watched as the soundless howl penetrated the mirage. The moment it entered the mirage, the howl's power was sharply reduced by 90%. The remaining power couldn't even shake the true meaning of stars that protected Dongbu Shuiying's body. The true meaning of stars was famous for its defense and power. Even in the real world, the howl of 10,000 ghosts wouldn't be able to shake him, not to mention that the attack was greatly reduced in the mirage. After the black-robed Nuan let out an angry roar, his expression suddenly changed. Damn it! The black-robed man's body suddenly exploded, turning into over 100 evil ghosts that scattered in all directions. The red-clothed bewitching woman, the demonic youth, the old man, all sorts of evil ghosts simultaneously let out low roars. Lord, this Dongbu Shuiying spear technique is extremely terrifying. It brings with it extreme destruction. My body can't withstand it. He was still speaking. A long spear once again pierced through the void. Fast as lightning. Apart from its speed, this spear also possessed a frightening sharpness. As soon as it appeared, it had already pierced into the body of an evil ghost. The evil ghost let out a mournful wail as its entire body began to disintegrate into nothingness. The long spear appeared again and again from the void. Each time it would stab into an evil ghost and destroy it. Even Nuan's possession was useless. Amazing, too amazing. The transcendence of the Xia people in Dingjiu's warship watched with excitement. Previously they had been worried about Dongbu Shuiying's safety, but now they were being slaughtered. Even I can't kill these evil ghosts, but Snow Eagle can kill one with a single spear strike. Si Kongyang revealed a look of surprise. Amazing. Just having great strength is really just a joke. You also need to have a powerful understanding of the laws of profound mysteries, otherwise you won't even be able to use your strength. Snow Eagle's true meaning of extreme piercing can indeed destroy that undying body. He doesn't even need to use it many times as he can kill it with a single move. I didn't expect Snow Eagle's strength to have improved so much in the past few years. Palace Lord Qin revealed a slight smile. They had guessed that Dongbui Shuiying would definitely have improved, but they had previously guessed that the improvement would not be too great. Now, however, it seemed that he was much stronger than they had expected. He can actually kill an evil ghost with a single spear strike. General Ku Meng was astonished. Such a powerful attack. The Lords of Ulan frowned. It has the power of a grade 2 true meaning stage 3 realm. However, extreme piercing is a true meaning that walks the path of extreme attacks. My guess is that Dongbui Shuiying should only be at the peak of stage 2 realm. Extreme piercing, even if it's only at the peak of stage 2 realm, its destructive power is comparable to that of an ordinary grade 2 true meaning stage 3 realm expert, General Ku Ming said worriedly. This destructive power is already very terrifying, even stronger than the number 1 demigod of the Xia people. Compared to Nuan Nuan, he only lacks a deity weapon. A grade 2 true meaning stage 3 expert wielding a deity weapon would normally have the strength to suppress an entire era. Dongbui Shuiying's extreme piercing had the power of a grade 2 true meaning stage 3 realm expert. All he lacked was a deity weapon. To them, a deity weapon would only increase their combat power by a few times. Even though he was lacking a deity weapon, it was still slightly weaker, but at least both sides were on the same level. You're wrong. You're underestimating the Xia people transcendent who was tortured by the voodoo poison, the Lords of Ulan said solemnly. He's even stronger than Nuan Nuan. If he only had extreme piercing, he would be slightly weaker than Nuan Nuan. However, he still has the true meaning of mirage. The true meaning of mirage paired with extreme piercing is a true meaning that would make any enemy tremble in fear. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Chapter 295. If Dongbui Shuiying had only relied on the true meaning of extreme piercing to kill the temporal temple's reincarnators, the outcome would have been uncertain. Even the true meaning of star and extreme piercing were extremely taxing. After grasping the true meaning of mirage, the difficulty of the opponent's mission immediately rose from hard to nightmare. Walking through the mirage, he could kill as he wished. The opponent could not resist at all. He can attack at any time and he can catch them off guard. The moment he attacks, his spear will be right in front of him. If he doesn't attack, you won't be able to find him. The combination of two true meanings. He can completely suppress Nuan Nuan. Power isn't always better when it's stronger, but when it's unleashed. And with his two true intents working together, every single spear of his is extremely vicious. The Lords of Ulan shook their heads. Most importantly, if he doesn't attack, we won't be able to find him. Furthermore, his spear is extremely fast, and he retracts it as soon as it's unleashed. We won't be able to surround him. Extreme piercing was already extremely fast. Just how fast was Dongbui Shuiying's spear? He retracted it as soon as it was unleashed. The advantage of numbers was useless. Will Nuan Nuan be killed? General Ku Meng asked. Nuan Nuan's strength is enough to suppress an entire era in the mortal world. How could he be killed so easily? This Dongbui Shuiying only managed to suppress him because of the combination of two true meanings. But is it just suppression? Are you going to kill him? It's hard to say who will live and who will die. The Lords of Ulan smirked. Look, Nuan Nuan is starting to go all out. It's not easy to survive in the dark abyss until now. Ah! A large group of evil spirits roared in unison. Dongbui Shuiying, I want you dead. Suddenly, a pair of huge, strange, green eyes appeared in midair. These eyes were Nuan Nuan's divine weapon. The pair of gigantic eyes glowed with a green light, forming two paths of green light. Countless evil spirits flew out from the green eyes. The remaining wraiths in the surroundings also converged towards the giant green eye. What's going on? Inside the mirage, Dongbui Shuiying frowned. Why are there so many evil spirits? This. Far away on Dingzhou's warship, the Xia people's transcendents were also stunned. Previously, a mere 100 evil spirits were already so difficult to deal with, but now hundreds of evil spirits had rushed out in an instant, and there were even more evil spirits madly rushing out from the two green eyes. In almost the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of evil spirits had appeared, all of them exuding a ferocious aura. These evil spirits seemed to be in a bit of a mess, and all of them were howling. Following that, the tens of thousands of evil spirits were attracted by an invisible force and quickly gathered towards the center. Countless terrifying energies surged. A gigantic evil spirit appeared. This evil spirit's entire body was pitch black and it had fangs. Its eyes shone with a green light and there were 9 black horns on its head. The endless ferocious aura emanating from its body engulfed heaven and earth, strangling the surrounding fantasy domains. Not a single fantasy domain could approach within 10 kilometers of it. So powerful. Inside the mirage, Dongbui Shuiying was inwardly shocked. What a powerful aura. It's much stronger than before. 10,000 ghost body? Didn't Nuan cultivate the 100 ghost body? General Ku Meng transmitted his voice in shock. Of course he doesn't have the 10,000 ghost body. If he did, it would be very difficult for me to defeat him. He raises tens of thousands of evil spirits, but normally he can only control 100 at most. Right now he's putting his life on the line. With the help of the divine weapon, he forcefully swallowed all the evil spirits and formed the 10,000 ghost body. Look, his whole body is surging with power and he can't restrain it at all. It's obvious that he can't control it. Look at his eyes. Even his consciousness is a bit chaotic, but that's enough. The Lords of Ulan revealed a smile. The Lords of Ulan immediately transmitted their voice. No, I'll help you. I'll control the flow of time in the area around you. However, Dongbui Shuiying is proficient in extreme piercing, which can forcibly penetrate through the obstruction of time and space. My time flow control will only be of partial use. You'll still have to rely on yourself. Remember, Dongbui Shuiying has a fatal weakness. The voice of the Lords of Ulan transmitted into the ears of the 10,000 ghost body Nuan. Nuan also transmitted his voice. Lord, don't worry. I know his fatal weakness. My death howl just so happens to restrain him. Suddenly, a spear suddenly appeared from the void behind Nuan. Everything around him slowed down, but the stellar fire cloud spear continued to forcefully penetrate through the obstruction of the time flow. It was still trying its best to penetrate through the obstruction of time, but inevitably, its speed was still somewhat slow. Nuan suddenly turned his head. His head immediately turned, but his body didn't move. He opened his ferocious, fanged mouth. Roar! At the same time, a pair of large hands with jet-black nails struck the spear as fast as lightning. Pooh! The stellar fire cloud spear directly pierced into the towering Nuan's head. His head was 2 meters tall, so after being pierced by the spear, part of his skull caved in. However, it quickly recovered. The stellar fire cloud spear quickly retracted. However, due to the influence of the time flow, it was still struck by the thug. My death howl is enough to kill you. Nuan was incomparably confident. The true meaning of Mirage isn't good at defense and extreme piercing is even worse. You don't even have any chi protecting your body. Perhaps you have a deity warrior? Deity warriors don't fear soul attacks, but they can also ignore soul attacks. Let's see how you block them. Transcendent mages usually research the soul. However, normal soul attacks wouldn't be too powerful. Transcendents could rely on their own souls to resist it. But Nuan was different. Nuan had condensed a true deity heart with the grade 3 true meaning of death. Using the deity heart of death as the core and the 10,000 ghost body to unleash the death howl, this was definitely an extremely terrifying soul attack. Deity warriors and armors were all very weak when dealing with soul attacks. Transcendent chi and transcendent magic power were the special powers of transcendence and had relatively better effects. True meanings were still the best. True meanings were mysterious, and some true meanings that specialized in defense could completely block them. Within the mirage, Nuan, who had the 10,000 ghost body, slapped the spear with his huge hands. When the force was transmitted into the mirage, the impact was immediately reduced. Dongbui Shuiying's right hand, which was holding onto the end of the spear, could feel that the impact was very, very weak. Without the spear handle to transmit the force, such a pure force wouldn't be able to enter the mirage. Ho! That furious roar was the truly terrifying one. The roar actually formed black ripples visible to the naked eye. The howl of the 10,000 ghost body. The death howl. Ordinary peak-level demigods would probably be killed instantly if they were to hear this howl. When the black ripples entered the mirage from the real world, their power was immediately reduced by 90%. However, the remaining 10% still invaded Dongbui Shuiying's body. On the surface of Dongbui Shuiying's body, there was the true meaning of star protecting him. All these years, although he had always been researching spear techniques, he didn't deliberately try to comprehend true meanings. However, there were times when not being deliberate could result in miraculous results. Just like Dongbu Shui Ying's research on spear techniques, he pursued speed. The more he pursued it, the faster his extreme piercing improved. Naturally, his extreme piercing had been upgraded. Until now, his extreme piercing, true meaning of star, and true meaning of mirage had all reached the peak of stage 2. The main reason was that it was very difficult to break through each stage. Dongbu Shuiying had been stuck at the peak for a few years now. Under the cultivation of the true meaning of star, his entire body was like a star. Strength and defense were its forte, while gravity was only a side effect. Hua hua hua, the true meaning of star on the surface of his body was as dense as the stars. The black ripples invaded his body, but were completely blocked by the true meaning of star. Actually, even in the outside world, when faced with the 10,000 ghost bodies' death howl, he would at most be injured. He could resist it in the outside world. Inside the mirage, with the true meaning of star, he was even more unharmed. Is he dead? The enormous Nuan asked expectantly. A spear that resembled a flowing cloud of fire pierced out once again, leaving Nuan disappointed. He actually didn't die? Not only Nuan, but even the lords of Ulan and General Ku Meng were disappointed. It must be the six ghosts' resentment. He has been tormented by the hexing poison for many years, tempering his spirit and willpower. However, I have the 10,000 ghost body, so I can resist it better than you. I'm sure he'll be dead after 8 to 10 times. Nuan immediately calmed down. Facing the spear that was affected by the flow of time, he was still hit every time. Not only was extreme piercing fast, but it could also pierce through space. By the time it reappeared, it would already be inside his head. Too sinister. Ho, 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 the terrifying howl of death. With the profound mysteries of the true deity heart condensed from the grade 3 true meaning of death as its core and the myriad ghost body as its foundation, the howl of death was extremely terrifying every time it was released. Inside Ding Jiao's battleship, the transcendents of the Xia people were all anxious and worried. The death howl produced black ripples that spread outwards. Everything within a 50-kilometer radius, including the leaves, soil and stones on the ground, was first scorched, then shattered into nothingness. This is an attack infused with the true meaning of death, Mountain Lord, he said. Furthermore, it targets the soul. Even the soil and stones on the ground were turned into nothingness by the ripples. This attack is even more terrifying against the soul. Although Snow Eagle has the green armored protector, it isn't specialized in defending against the soul. Can Snow Eagle hold on? His body is so weak, Si Kongyang said worriedly. AI, Palace Lord Qin said anxiously. Even if the gigantic Nuan was stabbed 8 to 10 times by Dongbu Shuiying, his body would not change much. Clearly the 10,000 ghost body was very resilient. Could Dongbu Shuiying hold on? Snow Eagle, Snow Eagle, Palace Lord Qin said anxiously. However, he couldn't even send a message because Dongbu Shuiying was in the mirage. Dongbu Shuiying's spear attacks were extremely fast. One spear after image after another attacked Nuan and from all directions. 10 spear strikes, 20 spear strikes, 30 spear strikes. How can he still hold on? The gigantic Nuan's body was gradually shrinking. Every time he was stabbed, the energy within his body was being consumed. This shouldn't be the case. The true meaning of extreme piercing and the true meaning of mirage aren't defensive true meanings. He doesn't even have any chi, so how can he hold on? Lords of Ulan found it hard to believe. 50 spear strikes, 60 spear strikes. No. Nuan's body shrank faster and faster as he screamed in fear. Nuan couldn't believe it. He was able to survive until now in the dark abyss and was an existence that could suppress an entire era in the mortal world. How could someone as powerful as him die so easily? Chapter 296. General Ku Meng looked at the despairing Nuan and in the distance, then at the lords of Ulan beside him. My lord, can you think of a way to save Nuan? General Ku Meng transmitted. How? Dongbu Shuiying's attack comes without warning, and he withdraws his spear in an instant. There's nothing I can do about it. The lords of Ulan calmly replied. He actually had a way, but it was meant to be used to save his life at the critical moment of entering Crimson Rock Mountain. How could he be willing to use it to protect Nuan? To him, Nuan was just a helper, and the main force of this treasure hunt was him. Be it Nuan or General Ku Meng, they were far less important than him. The lords of Ulan watched with interest. Nuan's incomplete 10,000 ghost body and his death cries are all useless. This Dongbo Shuiying doesn't have any fighting chi either. Could it be some kind of treasure? Or could it be that he's grasped some kind of protective true meaning? Suddenly the enormous Nuan let out a mournful cry. His face was malevolent, and his cry seemed to contain countless voices. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Nuan's shrill cry was clearly audible amidst the countless howls. Boom, the enormous 10,000 ghost body exploded. The terrifying power it contained exploded in an instant, spreading out in all directions. This explosion was definitely at the level of a deity. The 10,000 ghost bodies backlash. The lords of Ulan frowned. The terrifying impact had reached them in an instant. Although it was very powerful, it was spread out in all directions so its power was scattered. The farther the impact was, the weaker its power became. By the time it reached General Ku Meng and the lords of Ulan, the threat had been greatly reduced. General Ku Meng's silver body stood in front of the lords of Ulan, using his own body to resist the impact. Rumble, it was like a reef in the water, unshakable. It actually self-destructed, General Ku Meng said in a low voice. It's normal. The lords of Ulan watched as a hand appeared out of thin air in the distance and grabbed the treasures left behind by Nuan. The lords of Ulan's tone didn't change. Clearly they wanted to snatch Nuan's treasures. Who could be faster than Dongbo Shuiying in the mirage? Nuan's realm isn't high enough to begin with. He can barely maintain the 10,000 ghost body, so he won't be able to hold on for long. Under Dongbo Shuiying's relentless attacks, he grew more and more desperate. His will was shaken, and in an instant, he was devoured by the will of the 1,000 ghosts. The 10,000 ghost body can no longer be maintained and self-destructed. The lords of Ulan shook their heads. He was defeated. Most importantly, Dongbo Shuiying's defense was much stronger than what we had expected. I suspect that he had some sort of mystical treasure protecting his body, or some other kind of formidable defensive intent. Protective intent? General Ku Meng was astonished. Extreme Piercing and Mirage aren't specialized in protective abilities. If it wasn't a mystical treasure, then he might have mastered another defensive intent. The lords of Ulan laughed. This Xia people's transcendents are truly formidable. However, he's still too young. His Extreme Piercing and Mirage are both at the peak of Stage 2. He hasn't even reached Stage 3. I doubt he'll be able to harm you. Amen? General Ku Meng nodded. His greatest accomplishment was his body. His tyrannical body was enough to suppress Nuan inside Dingjiu's warship. Although the lords of Ulan and General Ku Meng calmly received the commotion, the Xia people's transcendents were truly moved. They had seen the enormous Nuan explode. Although Dingjiu's warship had suppressed the destructive might, it had still scorched the surrounding area of 1,000 li. Of course, the black-white deity mountain was protected by a protective array. It was able to withstand attacks from all directions. An existence that could suppress an entire era. He died just like that? Snow Eagle killed him? The Xia people's group of demigods looked through the transparent walls of the ship to see the dazzling scene of the explosion. It was like a gigantic firework. However, this firework represented the fall of an existence that could suppress an entire era. He didn't rely on the Xia people's protective treasure, but on his own strength. Just like that, Dongbo Shuiying killed Nuan. The might of Nuan's 10,000 ghost body made them feel incomparably fearful from afar. However, he was still killed. Snow Eagle is already the #1 expert of our Xia people. Mountain Lord, he revealed a smile and said in a carefree manner, even Elder Ao Lan, the Fire Demon Emperor, and even the mysterious third priest of the demonic faction, are no match for Snow Eagle. He already possesses the strength to suppress an era. He doesn't even need a deity artifact to be this powerful. Palace Lord Qin nodded. Right. Other than the foreign races, at least in our Xia people's world, he's already the strongest. Ha ha ha. Si Kong Yang laughed heartily. Awesome. Awesome. He's from my Water Taoist faction, and I'm even his master in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. Faction head Si Kong, stop showing off. You even reprimanded Snow Eagle and made Snow Eagle comprehend the true meaning of water and fire, Gong Yu said with a smile. Formidable, formidable. An era suppressor. The group of Xia people's demigods exclaimed in admiration, their hearts surging. Dongbo Shuiying's existence as an era suppressor was proven by killing an era suppressor. Clearly, even though he had 3 grade 2 true meanings, all of them were at the peak of the Stage 2 realm. But the combination of extreme piercing, mirage, and star was even more frightening than a stage 3 true meaning. Nuan had proven all of this. But judging from their team's appearance, Nuan should be the weakest among the team from the Dark Abyss. Palace Lord Qin looked into the distance. Look, even after Nuan's death, the Lords of Ulan's expression didn't change at all. Amen. The Xia people's demigods felt their hearts sink. They had all witnessed the scene of the Lords of Ulan's actions. They had seen how easily they crushed the mountain array of Black-White Deity Mountain and crushed Fengdong to death. That was definitely the power of a deity. There was a fundamental difference between this and an era suppressor. At the headquarters of the Temple of the Earth God. Within the garden. The team from the Temple of the Earth God from the deity world, consisting of the red-haired man Bo, the tall and skinny man Ba Han, and the golden-armored young master Wu Ma Hai, all turned their heads to look in a certain direction. With their perception of space, they could sense a terrifying undulation several tens of thousands of kilometers away. Even if their perception was weak, they could still deduce how powerful the undulation was. This was the result of Nuan's 10,000 ghost body self-destruction. The commotion was so great that not only the Temple of the Earth God sighed, but the entire mortal world could faintly sense it as well. What a powerful undulation. It's coming from several tens of thousands of kilometers away. The strength of the undulation should be at the deity realm. Wu Ma Hai's eyes glinted as he stood up. Come, let's go take a look. Perhaps it's one of the opponents we'll encounter when we enter Crimson Rock Mountain. Let's go. Ba Han and Bo also stood up. Rip, the three of them instantly flew into the sky, tore open a spatial tunnel, and rushed towards Black-White Deity Mountain. They weren't the only ones. The other teams that had sensed the undulation also headed towards it. Within the mirage, Dongbua Shuiying was currently examining the treasures left behind by Nuan and a deity artifact. Looking at the pair of glowing green eyes, Dongbua Shuiying instantly stored them into his storage treasure. That mighty existence from the Dark Abyss had most likely left behind some sort of trick to send down a deity artifact. Refining it wouldn't be easy. But no matter what, he didn't even have battle chi, so there was no way he could refine it. Following that, he picked up a storage ring and dripped a drop of blood from his finger into it. To a transcendent, refining an ownerless treasure was still very easy. They could use Do Chi magic power or even soul force or even blood. Even the most ordinary of mortals without battle chi or magic power could use a formation and use their blood to recognize a master. After claiming ownership of the ring, Zhang Xian immediately discovered that there were crystal balls floating in the storage ring. Each of the crystal balls contained the wailing of countless vengeful souls. Dongbua Shuiying's face was ashen as he muttered, "Damn it!" Suddenly he sensed something and raised his head. 10,000 kilometers away, space tore open and experts flew over. The first to appear were the old man, the Maishan master, the black-robed man, and the white-robed girl. It seems like they sensed the terrifying explosion just now. Dongbua Shuiying understood. I didn't think that the Maishan master would have companions. Soon another team arrived. Another spatial tear opened, and the leader of the Bloodshed Tavern team, Persei, and two of his subordinates flew over. Two more teams followed closely behind. One was from the Temple of the Earth God, and it was the golden-armored youth, Wu Ma Hai, and his two subordinates. The other team was a golden-robed youth, a muscular man, and a bewitching woman. 5 teams. Dongbua Shuiying waited for a bit, but no more teams arrived. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.